Chapter 951. First prize. After receiving the second prize, only the two people who had drawn the first prize were left. The two of them became inexplicably nervous. It was such a cold day, but their palms were drenched in sweat. Yundong asked someone to remove the last piece of cloth. Everyone felt that the last pile was especially big. They thought that there would definitely be a lot of prizes. As expected, as soon as the cloth was lifted, everyone's eyes widened. This time, the prize wasn't contained in a box because it really couldn't fit in. Yundong said, "This is the first prize. There's a tin caddy quilt, a mattress, a mat, a tent, and a pillow. Each person has 2 sets of these. There are also 2 pots of wine and a bag of tea leaves." Wow! A loud exclamation suddenly erupted from below. Everyone's eyes widened. A tin caddy quilt? There were also other things, and there were actually 2 sets? They were so jealous that their eyes turned red. They looked at the 2 people who had won the first prize and wished they could swap places with them. Compared to the third and second prizes, this first prize was really generous. For example, most of the quilts in their families were only 5 caddies. At most they were only 8 caddies. 10 caddies. It looked big and brand new. It would definitely be very warm if it covered them. In such weather, it was no different from sending charcoal in the snow. They wanted it very much. Many people subconsciously reached out their hands. Some even went up directly. If Yundong had not been standing there, they would have touched the prize. These things were not cheap. Not to mention the quilt. Even the mattress was thicker than the hard blanket they had used for a few years. In that case, they could be counted as 4 quilts. Jealousy. Jealousy had changed them beyond recognition. Bad hands, bad hands. Why didn't they get the first prize? Why? Mrs. Sun, who had won the first prize, had reddened eyes and almost cried. It was true. What a thick quilt that contained 10 caddies of cotton. Her family was already in a difficult situation. There were only 2 thin blankets at home, one for her and her husband and one for the children. In the winter, they could only cover all their clothes with them, but even so, they would often wake up in the middle of the night from the cold. Originally, when she entered the Gu family workshop this year, she finally had some money saved. She planned to buy some cotton after her salary was paid, so that she could stuff the blanket and make it thicker. Because of this, she did not even buy any New Year goods. She did not expect her luck to be so good that she directly drew 2 quilts. That was great. With 2 such thick quilts, her husband and she could have one and her children could have the other. Finally, the family could sleep soundly. Mrs. Sun could no longer hold back her tears. Yundong was stunned for a moment. "What's wrong, Mrs. Sun? Don't you like the quilts? If you don't like them, you can ask someone else if they're willing to exchange them with you. Or, no, I like them very much. Thank you. Thank you, boss." Mrs. Sun hurriedly said, I'm just too happy." The people below laughed. "Boss, your prize is in her heart." "That's right. Boss, you know us too well." Only then did Yundong feel relieved. She said to Mrs. Sun, "There are a lot of things and they're very heavy. Can I get someone to carry them back for you later?" Yes, thank you." Mrs. Sun was so happy that she could not say anything. Not only him, but the other man who had also won the first prize was also very excited. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 952. New Year's goods for everyone. He didn't lack quilts, but he really didn't have one that weighed 10 caddies. These quilts were especially beautiful. Coincidentally, his daughter was about to get married. This quilt would be a great honor for her as a dowry, and the color was festive. And that wine and tea leaves were all good things. What should he do? He could not bear to take them out to drink on his daughter's wedding day. However, he quickly said to Yundong, "Boss, thank you so much." Yundong waved her hand. "Since you both like them, I'm relieved. Leave the things here first. When you get back, you can get someone to help carry them back." "Sure thing." The 2 of them did not touch it. After all, they could not bear to. Their hands were too rough. What if they broke it? However, when they returned to their seats, the people around them surrounded them. All of them were very enthusiastic, and said that they wanted to help carry the prizes home. In fact, they wanted to take a closer look and touch the prizes. There was a lot of noise below. They were too happy about winning the prize. Whether it was the first, second, or third prizes, they were all envious. Initially, Yundong had thought that the first prize could be a cow or a donkey. After all, many companies in the modern era had cars for annual party prizes. Later on, she thought about it and decided to forget it. Hers was just a small workshop, and it was the first annual party. What would she do in the future if she were to give away cows and donkeys now? Therefore, after pondering for a while, she decided to give them something practical. Judging from their reactions, they should be very satisfied. Alright, the lottery is over. Next, everyone will have a share of the New Year goods. As soon as Yundong spoke, the people below instantly fell silent. As soon as they heard about the New Year goods, everyone immediately sat up straight. After all, these were really in their hands and had nothing to do with others, so there was no need to be envious. Therefore, getting the New Year goods was more important. Soon Tong'an and Tongping pushed the cart over. It was filled with meat, and everyone's eyes lit up instantly. Even though they had just finished eating a big meal, they could not help but swallow hard. Several ways to cook pork flashed across their minds. 2 caddies of meat for each person. Everyone, don't be anxious. Everyone has a share. Yundong led the Gu family and pieces of pork. Everyone was distributed. Even the 2 little fellows, Yunshu and Yunka, were helping excitedly. They swung their legs upside down and handed the meat to the villagers. After the meat was distributed, the cloth was given away. White sugar followed, and the last was pastries. There were a total of 4 items, and everyone's hands were filled with them. Everyone was very excited and discussed animatedly. They did not have to buy those things during the new year, and saved a lot of money. Yundong waited for them to finish their discussion before continuing. The New Year's goods have been distributed. Finally, it's this month's salary. Tong Shuetao carried up another basket. It was really because most people were given copper coins, so she had no choice but to use the basket. Yundong took a brush and paper and an account book. She sat behind a table and said to everyone, "Now come up one by one. You can go back after receiving the salary. It's been hard on everyone this year. Continue to work hard next year, and strive to earn more money." Okay. The voices below were exceptionally loud, and everyone was very excited. Yundong nodded in satisfaction and opened the account book. Come up when you hear your name. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 953. More surprise? Yundong quickly recited, Su Huar. Here. Yundong had an impression of her. Last year, she was also there when the short-term workers received the New Year's goods. When they arrived, Yundong took the string of copper coins from Tong Shuetao and handed it to her. Su Huats bowed. "Thank you, boss." Then, she took the copper coins and walked to the side. Yundong ticked her name. Then she started to call the second person. Just as she was handing out copper coins to the second person, Su Huar, who was beside her, suddenly exclaimed, "Boss, you gave an extra 100 copper coins." Everyone looked over in unison, but Yundong was not surprised. "It's the new year. Take these 100 copper coins as a red packet for everyone. Everyone has it. You can buy New Year goods with it." 100 copper coins was not much. It could be considered the year-end bonus. Everyone had worked hard for an entire year. On the last day, they still had to celebrate. When the people behind heard this, they were overjoyed. They did not expect that when the workshop closed for the holiday, there would be a meal gathering, a lucky draw, and a New Year's gift. In the end, there was even a red packet. The surprises came one after another, making them a little dizzy and unable to find the north. These things were common to modern companies, but in this era, they were unique. But to Yundong, these extra rewards did not cost much. In total, it was about 50 to 60 taels. However, this would make everyone happy. In the future, they would be more loyal to the Gu family and have a greater sense of belonging to the Gu family. Moreover, they would be able to publicize it for free. This money was very worth it. The pay was distributed one by one. Everyone could not help but count it again and again. It was not that they did not trust Gu Yundong and were afraid that they would be paid less. They just could not resist the desire to count the money, especially when they had an extra 100 copper coins. They felt so good. The Zeng couple, the Shi couple, Zhao, and the other managers were the last to be paid. Their salaries were high, so they were directly given silver. Everyone was a little envious when they saw this. They thought that if they worked harder, they would be able to touch silver when they became managers in the future. However, none of these people left after receiving the money. Gu Yundong found it strange. Then she saw that everyone was busy. The tables were cleared, the stools were cleared, and the women were tidying up the pots and pans and cleaning the ground. Gu Yundong immediately smiled. Whether it was New Year goods or red packets, they were indeed worth it. In just a short while, the workshop returned to its original state. It was clean. The tables and chairs had all been returned. Everyone stood in front of Gu Yundong again with the New Year goods in their hands. They waved at Gu Yundong. "Boss, we wish you a happy New Year in advance. We'll take our leave first." Gu Yundong waved her hand. "Happy New Year to you too. See you next year." Only then did everyone turn around and leave. The weather outside was very cold and dark, but the people who came out of the workshop were all overjoyed and warm. The families of the people from the neighboring villages who lived further away came to pick them up. Mrs. Sun's husband was also here. Although he was not in good health, it was fine for him to go out. At this moment, he saw Mrs. Sun carrying a large pile of things in her hand. There were actually quilts? Her husband's face was filled with shock as he hurriedly went up to her. Mrs. Sun was very happy to see him. She said with a face full of joy, "Husband, we drew the lottery today. I won the first prize. Look, there are 2 big quilts and beddings and these. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 954, New Year Misses. Sun's husband was stunned. He subconsciously took a quilt and it, unable to come back to his senses. The people beside her had already started talking at once. "Your wife is lucky. You don't know that there were only 2 people who won this prize. Your wife was one of them. This quilt weighs 5 kilograms. Look, it's so thick." "It's thick, it's indeed thick." He nodded blankly. Mrs. Sun raised the New Year goods again. "These were also given by the boss. We don't have to buy them for the new year." Someone at the side shouted, "Let's go back first. It's already so late. Let's not stand here anymore. Let's go." Gu Yundong gave a few lanterns to the people living in the neighboring villages and asked them to go back together in case they could not see the road. However, it did not matter to them whether they had lanterns or not. The road was so wide that they could walk as they pleased. It was even more convenient for those from the local village. Many people were still waiting outside. Soon the lively crowd dispersed. Gu Yundong led his parents and siblings back to the Gu house. The door of the workshop was closed. Next, they just had to prepare for the new year in peace. When they reached home, Gu Yundong took out a few red packets and gave one to the Tong family, the Lu family, and Shuirong. Everyone thanked her and happily accepted it. When Gu Yundong returned to her room, she wrote a letter to Shao Qingyuan and told him in detail about today's annual party. Now that they could not see each other, they could only contact each other through letters. Unfortunately, he couldn't be at home during the new year. She recalled that last year, Shao Qingyuan was alone at home. Later, he was called over by Yinshu to set off firecrackers and have New Year's Eve dinner with the Gu family. This year, only Ago and the auntie who cooked were in the Shao family. Gu Yundong also gave them red packets on behalf of Shao Qingyuan. The next day, the incident at the Gu family workshop's annual party swept through Yongfu village and the neighboring villages like a violent wind. Everyone was envious when they heard that everyone had New Year's goods and a few big awards. Thus, a new round of inquiring about whether the workshop was recruiting people began again. Unfortunately, Gu Yundong was not recruiting for the time being. Even if she wanted to recruit, she had to expand the workshop first. In the following days, the Gu family began to prepare for the new year. They cleaned the house, made tofu, killed chickens and fish, and made dumplings. Everything was warm. On New Year's Eve, the family gathered together with smiles on their faces. Gu Yundong recalled last year. At that time, her father had not been found, and she did not know where eldest Aunt Gu was. Yuanji was suffering in old Gus' house. Now apart from Uncle Gu, her family was finally reunited. Gu Yundong believed that they would be able to find younger uncle sooner or later. This was her first wish for the new year. The dinner was very sumptuous. After eating, everyone went to set off firecrackers. Since Qingyuan wasn't around, Gu Dajiang was the one who lit the firecrackers. Gu Yundong held the little girl in her arms and listened to the crackling sounds. She looked at Yunshu and Yuanji jumping around and could not help but smile. After the firecrackers were released, Yunshu and Yuanji ran in to move the fireworks out. The two of them were bold enough to light the fireworks themselves. The fireworks rushed into the sky with a bang and exploded. The people in the village looked up one after another. The children's voices were especially cheerful. The crowing of chickens and barking of dogs made the night in Yongfu village seem like a busy city. After the fireworks ended, fireworks exploded in the sky on the other side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 955. Gu Yundong is also a junior who is doted on. The Gu family could not help but turn their heads and look in the direction of the fireworks. Yunshi's eyes lit up. She jumped and said, "It's Niu Don house. It must be his house that set off the fireworks." Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. It was indeed in the direction of Chen Liang's house. It seemed that the Chen family had earned a lot of money this year and was extravagant. After New Year's Eve, it would be New Year's Day the next day. It was different from last year. Last year, Gu Yundong could only give out red packets. The only red packet that was given to her came from Shao Qingyuan. She had placed it in a box and kept it in the space. This year, when Gu Yundong woke up, she received red packets from her parents, aunt and father. Looking at the red packets in front of her, Gu Yundong's eyes burned. This was the first time in many years that she had received a red packet from her family and elders. Gu Yundong felt that her life was complete. She put away the complicated and sour feeling in her heart, and reached out to take them. "Thank you, father and mother. Thank you, eldest aunt and uncle. Happy New Year." Gu Dajiang patted her head. "Happy New Year. I hope you'll be healthy and safe in the new year. Be happy every day." As he spoke, he felt a little reluctant. Gu Dajiang had a feeling that this year might be Yundong's last year receiving red packets as an unmarried girl. Next year, she might even have to bring Shao Qingyuan along. Thinking about it, he started to dislike Shao Qingyuan again. Fortunately, Shao Qingyuan wasn't present this year. Otherwise, he would definitely receive Gu Dajiang's angry glare. Immediately after, Gu Dajiang gave a few more red packets to the younger ones. This time, it was not Gu Yundong's turn to give away red packets. She was also a junior now who had parents, aunts, and uncles to dote on her. After Yunshu, Yunka, and the other children received the red packets, they ran out to play with their friends. Not long after, they brought a group of children in to pay New Year greetings. The Gu family had prepared a lot of sweets, sunflower seeds, and snacks. When the children were here, none of them returned empty-handed. Their clothes and pockets were filled. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, most of the villagers started to visit their relatives. The relatives of the Gu family were all at home, so there was no need to travel around. However, there were many people who came to visit. The Gu family stayed at home to entertain the guests. On the third day of the Lunar New Year, the whole family went up the mountain to visit Bien Mulan. It was Bien Han's first time back. It was inconvenient for him in a wheelchair. It was not easy to walk up the mountain, so he could only be carried by a few people. When he saw Bien Mulan's tombstone, he couldn't help but cry. Everyone present felt terrible. They were living a good life now, but Bien Mulan couldn't enjoy it. After crying for a while, the Bien family calmed down a little and went down the mountain. On the fourth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong and his family went to Qin Wenzheng's house to visit him. On the fifth day of the Lunar New Year, Gu Yundong went to the Lu residence again. Lu Wei was not around and went out to play. However, Lu Yi was at home. He had a good relationship with Yinshu and Yuanji and insisted that they stay for the night. On the 6th and 7th day of the new year, Yundong went to take a look at other people's houses. On the 8th day of the new year, the workshop reopened and all the workers returned. Yundong looked at their flushed faces. This meant that they all celebrated the new year in happiness. Sure enough, after the workshop started, everyone worked even harder. However, Shao Qingyuan hadn't returned yet. He had sent a few letters back, saying that everything was going smoothly. Although Yundong was looking forward to his return, she was also very busy. After all, her father would be taking the imperial examination at the beginning of next month. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 956. 10th in clothes. Yundong was still a little excited about the imperial examination. Not only her, but everyone in the Gu family was on high alert, especially Gu Dafeng. As Gu Dajiang's sister, she knew best about his helplessness when he wanted to study as a kid. She accompanied him through the experience of being chosen by the old elementary scholar and recognized by the old patriarch. Later on, the old patriarch and the old elementary scholar passed away one after another. Originally, he was just close to taking the preparation scholar exam, but his rights were directly stripped. In the end, he put down his books and worked in the fields all day. Gu Dafeng had accompanied him all this way. At that time, he saw his younger brother, who was clearly talented, good at studying and motivated, but because of Madame Zhao's suppression, old Gus inaction, and the patriarch's personal grudge, he cut off his chance to study. This made Gu Dafeng hate the Gu family very much. She wanted to protect Gu Dajiang, but it was too difficult. She was still young at that time. Dealing with the 3 mountains above her was no different from courting death. Therefore, now that Gu Dajiang could participate in the imperial examination, the joy in Gu Dafeng's heart could not be described with words. She had even cried behind someone's back. Gu Yundong knew that there was no need to worry about endorsement and recognition. With Qin Wenzheng's help, what she needed to think about now was how to let her father perform normally in the examination hall, and strive to pass in one go. The county exam was in February. There were 5 subjects, and each one was only for a day. It was still bearable. After all, he did not have to stay in a narrow examination shed and endure the consequences of his back aching and legs weakening. However, the weather in February was still very cold, so it was still very important to keep warm. It was just that she had heard that when entering the examination hall, hats were not allowed to be double-layered. The leather jacket had to be stripped of its skin, and the felt clothes were removed from the inside. The clothes and robes were all single-layered, the socks were made of single-layered felt, and the shoes were made of thin soles. Just thinking about these rules made Gu Yundong feel cold. She touched her chin and went to look for Gu Dafeng. She said, "Eldest aunt, I think we have to prepare at least 10 pieces of single clothes for father. Otherwise he'll shiver from the cold." Gu Yundong's embroidery skills were still not good. After all, this was Gu Dajiang's clothes. It was not good for her to ask Shen Sitian to make it, so she simply looked for eldest aunt. Gu Dajiang happened to walk over. When he heard that, he looked at himself. Single clothes, 10 pieces. "Well, Yundong, the weather is already getting warmer next month, so there's no need for so many," he said. "If I put all 10 clothes on, I'm afraid I won't even be able to straighten my hand. How can I write?" Gu Yundong waved her hand. "It's okay. Make the clothes inside smaller and the clothes outside bigger." "But that's still uncomfortable." Gu Yundong turned around and said solemnly, "Father, it's better than catching a cold. At least wear it when you go in. If it does affect your performance while you're holding the brush, then take it off." His daughter was so concerned about him. It was as if he would hurt her heart if he rejected her again. Gu Dajiang nodded. "All right." Gu Yundong was satisfied. He thought for a while and suddenly slapped his forehead. "I almost forgot." "Forgot what?" Gu Dafeng asked. "Father, each of you has a test tent, right? Moreover, you have to draw lots to determine the location of the test tent?" Gu Dajiang had already asked around. "That's indeed the case. What's wrong?" "I'm worried that you won't get a good spot." Gu Yundong frowned. "Father, What if you get a spot next to the toilet? Well, what could he do? Acknowledge his bad luck? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 957. Yundong is right. Dajiang was already mentally prepared, so he didn't think much of it. On the other hand, Dafeng became nervous. Then what should we do? If you draw a spot beside the toilet, won't you have to smell that disgusting smell for the entire day? How can you write? How can you think? How can you eat? Yundong nodded and said in agreement. Also, I heard that some candidates get nervous easily when they enter the examination hall. When they are nervous, their stomach hurts. When it hurts, they have to go to the toilet. If they come a few more times, my father will probably faint from the smell. That won't do. Yundong, can you get someone to change your father's position? After saying that, Dafeng asked worriedly. This shouldn't be considered bribing the examiner, right? It's just changing his position. It's not like he cheated. Yundong shook her head. No, I heard that the examination is especially strict. Such private transactions can't be made at all. Otherwise, you'll be beheaded. Then what should we do? Dafeng was anxious. It wasn't easy for your father to have the chance to take the imperial examination. How can he destroy it on the toilet? Dajiang was speechless. Wait, are you guys mistaken? This is just a possibility. Just a possibility. Why does it sound like you've already confirmed that he'll definitely sit in the test shed beside the toilet? Hey, there are so many people taking the exam. I really don't have to. Father, you have to consider all possibilities, Yundong said solemnly. Dafeng nodded. Yundong is right. We can't hope for luck. What if you're unlucky? Yundong is right. Dafeng continued to nod. So father, we have to think of a way to solve this problem first. Yundong is right. Dafeng nodded halfway, and suddenly looked at her in surprise. You've thought of a way? Yundong said in all seriousness. I do have a stupid but very effective method here. Tell me quickly. Dafeng's eyes lit up. However, Dajiang suddenly had a very bad feeling. Yundong said, we have to let my father get used to this smell first. You mean? Yundong looked at Dajiang. Father, during this period of time, when you're reading and writing articles, move the table near the outhouse. When you're used to it and can smell nothing, you won't have anything to fear. You won't care where the examination hall is when you write articles. Dajiang couldn't help but widen his eyes. Yundong, I'm your father, your biological father. What the hell is smelling nothing? You even create an idiom yourself, right? When Dafeng heard this, she was a little hesitant. Was this method really fine? She looked at Dajiang, who shook his head vigorously. No, definitely not. I probably wouldn't draw that spot at all. Yundong said. Father, you said it's possible. What if? What if your luck is extremely bad? But Yundong, I'm actually not that weak. Think about it. I've suffered in the past. I can overcome such a small matter. There's no need to make so much effort. But Dad, for the past 6 months, you've mostly been reading and writing in a comfortable environment. Now that you've suddenly fallen into such a bad situation, the difference is too great, and it's easier for you to feel unbalanced. Dajiang felt that all his years of studying had been in vain. He actually couldn't win against his daughter in a debate? Yundong, are you serious? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 958. Dress so festively. Yundong nodded seriously. Very seriously. Seeing that things had developed to this point and there was no room for negotiation, Dafeng suddenly felt like laughing. How did things end up in this direction? Dajiang was pushed out by Yundong to the toilet door. Dajiang immediately covered his nose. Yundong, I'm your biological father. Look, you can't take it anymore and have to cover your nose. You'll have to face 5 exams in the future. Won't you break down? It's precisely because you're my biological father that I'm so considerate of you. Thank you, but no. Dajiang wanted to leave, but Yundong stood firmly behind him. Father, It's said that only through hardship can one rise above others. The imperial examination is a long and arduous path. This is just a little stench. You have to overcome it. Gu Dajiang was speechless. He didn't want his daughter anymore. He could not win against Gu Yundong. In short, no matter what reason he had, Gu Yundong could find something to refute. In the end, Father Tong and Shui Rong moved a table and chair to the toilet. Gu Dajiang sat there aggrievedly. The veins on his hand that was holding the brush throbbed, and he almost showed everyone how to break the brush with his bare hands. Gu Yundong was quite satisfied, but the others standing behind her were holding back their laughter. Gu Dafeng couldn't hold it in anymore. She quickly turned her head away, but her shoulders were heaving. Madame Yang and Yunke did not understand what was going on and also giggled. Yunshu pulled Zhuangzi's arm and took a few steps back. She said softly, "Do we have to read and write like this for the preparation scholar exam?" Bian Yuanji rubbed his head in confusion. "I didn't hear the teacher say that." Gu Yunshu shrank her neck. "My elder sister is too terrifying." The two little fellows still had lingering fears. They were already thinking about how to avoid this cruel method when they took the exam. However, Gu Yundong felt that she had solved a huge problem in her heart, and began to think about other things. There was no need to worry about food. It was just a day of exams. He could still fill his stomach for more than half a day with some pastries and bread. Gu Yundong thought of everything she could think of and felt that she had missed nothing. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. In the next few days, she focused on preparing. By the end of the month, Gu Dajiang's 10 clothes were completed. Gu Yundong took it from eldest Aunt Gu and compared it. It was not bad. The outermost piece was exceptionally wide, so it should not be too tight. Gu Yundong carried the pile of clothes to look for Gu Dajiang. However, just as she reached the courtyard, she bumped into him. "Father, why do you smell so bad?" Gu Yundong took a few steps back. Gu Dajiang's eyes suddenly turned sinister as he sneered at Gu Yundong. The latter suddenly reacted. Oh no, it seemed like she did it. She immediately turned around and ran away with her clothes. Gu Dajiang snorted and returned to his room to shower and change. After more than an hour, Gu Yundong came back quietly with his clothes. She originally thought that Gu Dajiang would not be around. Unexpectedly, when she arrived at the main house, she saw her father trying on a piece of clothing. Madame Yang was looking at him with glowing eyes, as if she liked him very much. Gu Yundong was surprised. "Father, where did you get this outfit? Why are you dressed so festively?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 959. What does other people getting married have to do with you? Madame Yang was helping him tidy up his sleeves. She also looked very happy, not letting go of even the slightest wrinkle. Gu Dajiang glanced sideways at Gu Yundong and said, "Jiang Bao and the Shi family's daughter are getting married. Don't tell me you've forgotten?" "Of course I didn't forget. Isn't it the day after tomorrow?" Gu Yundong was suspicious. "But what does her marriage have to do with you wearing new clothes?" Gu Dajiang was smug. "They invited me to be their witness." Witness? When did this happen? Why didn't she know? Seeing that her father's new clothes were prepared so neatly, he must have received the news long ago. Was he deliberately not telling her? Was he taking revenge on her for letting him stay near the toilet? He was already so old. How childish. Gu Yundong snorted softly, but she was still very surprised. However, what she did not know was that Jiang Bao's first consideration was Gu Yundong. Speaking of which, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan were more or less matchmakers for him and Lan Huaner. If she hadn't hired Zhuangzi, if boss Shao hadn't hired Jiang Bao, the two of them wouldn't have known each other. Naturally, Zhuangzi wouldn't have introduced the girl to her. Therefore, to them, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan were matchmakers, benefactors, and esteemed guests. However, Shao Qingyuan was not around. Gu Yundong was not married after all. It was not appropriate for her to be a witness. Hence, after some thought, Jiang Bao thought of Gu Dajiang. This was Boss Gus' biological father and Boss Shao's future father-in-law. He was also a scholar. It was said that he would be participating in the imperial examination soon. At that time, he would be the elementary scholar. Their witness was the elementary scholar. If word got out, wouldn't it be glorious? Hence, the Shi couple and the Jiang family came to invite Gu Dajiang. This was the first time Gu Dajiang was a witness. For some reason, he was a little excited. Hence, on the day of Jiang Bao and Lan Huaner's wedding, he woke up early. After dressing up, he got Shui Rong to put on a carriage and went to the Jiang family village. As the witness, Gu Dajiang naturally had to go to the man's side. Gu Yundong brought the rest of the Gu family to the Shi residence. Gu Dafeng and his husband did not go. After all, they did not have much of a relationship with the newlywed couple. In addition, Bian Han's leg was inconvenient. There were too many people, and it was easy to get injured if they squeezed around. When the Shi family got married, the entire village became lively. In the past, Shi Dashan and his wife were timid, and Zhuangzi was a hooligan. Lan Huan was the only sensible and smart one in the family. However, no matter how smart she was, having such a family would also drag her down. Therefore, when families with slightly better conditions were looking for a wife, they would not consider Lan Huar. However, in less than a year, the Shi family had changed drastically. Lan Huar had married into a good family. She heard that Jiang Bao was going to the prefectural city soon. This time, most of the people in the village came to the Shi family's treat. When Gu Yundong entered, it was already bustling with noise and excitement. Many villagers came over to help. Some were cooking, some were carrying tables. Most of them knew Gu Yundong. When they saw her family coming, they raised their hands to greet her. Gu Yundong nodded and responded to them one by one. Then, she brought the children to see the bride. Lan Huar sat in her room. The Shi family had renovated the house. She had a separate room, and it was quite big. Hence, when Gu Yundong entered, there were already many people sitting in the room. However, there were a few familiar faces. They were ladies and women from the village, and some were complete strangers. They were probably relatives of the Shi family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 960. Gu Yundong adds makeup. When Lan Huater saw Gu Yundong, she quickly stood up. Gu Yundong quickly made her sit down. Sit properly. Don't mess up the wedding dress. I just brought a few children over to take a look. They all said they wanted to see the bride. As she spoke, she lowered her head and looked at Yunshu, Yunke, Yuanji, and Lu Hongxiao. The few of them stuck half their heads out from behind her. Their faces were a little red, and they looked a little embarrassed. The bride is so beautiful. Young lady Yunke was the sweetest. She took a few steps forward and raised her small head. Her eyes were shining as she watched. She could not bear to move. Lan Huar was embarrassed by her gaze. She quickly picked up the candy beside her and fed her one. Kiki looks good too. Come eat the wedding candy. Yes, it's delicious. Thank you, Sister Lan Hua. Lan Huar also distributed wedding candy to the other children, including Gu Yundong. The Shi family's conditions were better now, and they had a lot of sweets, but they couldn't give them away casually. After all, sweets were really expensive. The children took the candy and looked at the bride. They were immediately chased out by Gu Yundong. When I came over just now, I saw Niu Dan and Zheng Lu playing outside. You guys should hurry up and join them too. The few of them immediately dispersed and ran out of the door. Gu Yundong took out a red packet and handed it to Lan Huar. Take this. I wish you a happy marriage and a happy life with Jiang Bao. Then, she took out a silver hairpin to add makeup to her appearance. After that, Gu Yundong left the room with Madame Yang. As soon as she left, everyone in the room surrounded her and stared at the hairpin with burning eyes. Yundong is so generous. This hairpin doesn't look cheap. Let me see. Io, with this amount in this style, it must be no less than 3 taels of silver. Lan Huar, this is your dowry. You have to keep it well. That's right. Don't lose it. Otherwise, you'll cry to death and let Boss Gu down. Lan Huar was originally very relaxed, but when they said that, she was immediately extremely nervous. For a moment, she did not know where to put the hairpin, until a soft sneer sounded in the corner. You guys are really funny. Such a lousy hairpin is almost like a treasure. That Miss Gu is so rich. Why didn't she give you a gold gift? I heard that those rich families offer a complete set of makeups for the bride. You guys can even brag about a hairpin. It's strange." As soon as she said this, the room fell silent. Everyone looked at the girl who spoke in unison and frowned. Lan Huar also frowned. Her personality was different from her parents, especially those who made her unhappy on her wedding day. She would not be polite. It's better than nothing. This person was a cousin of hers called He Xiao. She was the same age as her. In the past, she looked down on her family and would poke fun at them from time to time. Later, Zhuangzi became a clerk in the county. The Shi family's days were getting better and better. This cousin of hers had other thoughts and wanted to marry Zhuangzi. Unfortunately, Zhuangzi was focused on his goal of becoming the shopkeeper. He did not even know who He Xiao was. Moreover, Shi Dashan and his wife did not like He Xiao. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. However, a few months ago, the He family found out that Zhuangzi had become the shopkeeper. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 961. Prestigious Shopkeeper. In this day and age, anyone who could be a shopkeeper was old. A young man like Zhuangzi would have to work for at least 10 years before he could reach that step. It had been less than a year since he became a shop assistant, right? The He family was excited and ran over to matchmake Zhuangzi and He Xiao. The Shi couple would not agree either. The He family's parents almost fell out with them. No matter what they said, they could not get them to agree. Later on, they came up with a bad idea. They simply let He Xiao go to Gu's shop to meet Zhuangzi. The two of them would meet more in private. When Zhuangzi had a good impression of He Xiao, it would be useless even if the Shi couple wanted to object. He Xiao did go to the shop in the county city, and saw Zhuangzi arrogantly instructing Qingyuan to work. She felt that it was especially impressive and imagined having a maidservant for her to order around in the future. Hence, she was even more determined to get Zhuangzi. After entering the shop, she felt very immersed and also instructed Qingyuan. Qingyuan tolerated Zhuangzi, because Zhuangzi was only putting on an act on the surface. In fact, he had helped him a lot. This was the way the two of them interacted. But where did this woman called He Xiao come from? It was simply baffling. Then He Xiao was chased out by Qingyuan. Zhuangzi looked on coldly and even gloated. These relatives of the He family were really ugly. Zhuangzi had never liked them in the past. When his parents were in trouble, they would avoid them and hit them when they were down. Now, seeing that Zhuangzi's family's lives were getting better and better, they rushed to curry favor with them, which made Zhuangzi extremely disgusted. Therefore, no matter what He Xiao's personality was, Zhuangzi would not consider it. Although he had become the shopkeeper, Zhuangzi was still not stingy. He went straight to He Xiao's village to look for the He family's parents. If they let He Xiao pester him again, he would make a fuss that the entire village would know and make He Xiao unable to marry in the future. If He Xiao had the guts to marry him, he would also have the guts to beat her to death. As for being filial to his parents-in-law, don't even think about it. He Xiao's family really felt that he could do it. They were a little timid. After weighing it for a while, they still felt that they should let it go. Hence, they restrained He Xiao and stopped her from looking for Zhuangzi. Lan Huar did not expect He Xiao to make things difficult for her here. With her temperament, she actually looked down on Yundong's gift? What a joke. He Xiao was a little angry after being rebuked by Lan Huar. She stood up and wanted to quarrel with her. However, she was quickly suppressed by her sister-in-law. Stop it. Today is Lan Hua's big day. If you make a fuss, Zhuangzi will be the first to not let you off. It's not like you don't know Zhuangzi's temper. He Xiao took 2 deep breaths and endured it. In the end, she did not say anything. However, after lowering her head, her eyes darted around and her gaze landed on the hairpin. The He family's sister-in-law immediately changed the topic, and everyone looked away from He Xiao. The chattering in the room quickly became lively again. Not long after, there was a sudden commotion outside. Immediately after, a child ran in and shouted, "The groom is here! The groom is here! He rode a tall horse over. He's so awe-inspiring." Everyone in the room stood up and chuckled as they asked Lan Huar to quickly cover her head. After a while, there was even more noise outside. There were a lot of people in the room. Soon a portion of them went out. Shao also squeezed out of the crowd. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 962. Madame Yang is a fool. However, no one realized that Shao had something in her hand when she went out. Jiang Bao was blocked outside the door by Zhuangzi, Big Qian and Gosheng. One moment they wanted him to flip around, and the next moment, they wanted him to recite poetry. The onlookers were overjoyed. However, Zhuangzi thought that he knew a few words and even pretended to come up with couplets, causing Yunshu and the children to laugh. Jiang Bao was quick-witted. In addition, he called Go, a skilled person, over to help. Not long after, the people in the courtyard could not stop them and let them in. Yundong stood in the crowd and watched the commotion. She suddenly thought of Shao Qingyuan. She didn't know when he would be back, but she had received a letter from him 2 days ago. He only said that everything was going well, and that he would try his best to rush back. After all, it was a messenger pigeon. It was not appropriate to write some confidential information on it. Yundong slowly exhaled. When he looked over again, he saw that Jiang Bao had already been escorted into the bride's room by everyone. Soon he carried the bride out. The group of people cheered over there, as if they had married a wife. Jiang Bao had specially gotten someone to carry a bridal sedan chair over. In this day and age, when one got married in the countryside, those who were really poor would directly walk back. Those with slightly better conditions would drive a carriage over to pick the wife up. It was the first time in Yongfu village that someone like Jiang Bao rode a tall horse and got someone to carry a red sedan chair. Update by In0 Go. C0. The villagers were extremely envious, especially those young wives. When they thought about how their weddings had been cold and cheerless previously, but Lan Huaer could sit in the bridal sedan chair, their hearts itched. Lan Huaer will enjoy life in the future. That's right. Who would have thought that the Shi family would have such good fortune a year ago? The Shi family is lucky. They're following the Gu family now. When Lan Huaer returns to the family, I heard that Zhuangzi and the Shi family's son-in-law are going to the prefectural city. Shao was very disdainful when she heard this. Just wait. She wanted to see if the Gu family would always take care of the Shi family in the future. Lan Huaer was taken away. Shi Dashan and his wife were reluctant, and their eyes were red. Even though Jiang Bao had repeatedly promised to take good care of Lan Huaer and not let her suffer, they were still worried. It was only when the bridal sedan was further and further away, and could no longer be seen, that Shi Dashan turned around and started to call everyone into the courtyard to eat. Yundong sat at the head of the table with Madame Yang beside her. However, Madame Yang was a child. After eating, she got off the table and went to play with Yunka. Yundong let her be and only let Lu Hongxiu keep an eye on her. When Shao saw Madame Yang leave, she hurriedly swallowed the meat in her mouth. She put down her chopsticks reluctantly and hurriedly followed. Madame Yang liked to play with children. In the past, there were children who secretly scolded her for being a fool. Later on, the Gu family became better and better, and Yundong became more and more domineering. These children were reminded by the adults not to offend the Gu family. Moreover, because Yunshu was good at her studies and had a lot of experience, she had vaguely become the king of children in this village. Therefore, when Madame Yang came over, the children were also very friendly to her. However, Shao frowned. It was mainly because Lu Hongxiu was watching over Madame Yang, so she couldn't find a chance to get close to her. Shao had already thought it through. Madame Yang was a fool. She was easy to deceive and trust. She would tell Madame Yang that the hairpin belonged to the Gu family and was worth a lot of money. It was a pity to give it to someone else. Wouldn't it be good to leave it for her daughter as a dowry in the future? She could make her daughter proud later. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 963. Approaching Madame Yang, Shao had heard that Madame Yang doted on Yundong very much. Even if she was a fool, she would protect her daughter. Therefore, it was definitely not a problem for her to encourage Madame Yang to bring the hairpin back. Of course, she had already secretly taken out the hairpin, and placed it somewhere easy to obtain. This way, Madame Yang would be a thief. Gu Yundong would definitely not be able to tell anyone about this. Otherwise, it would ruin her mother's reputation. That hairpin could not be used in the future. It could not be seen by everyone. It could only be hidden forever. As for Lan Huar, she would definitely find out that the hairpin was missing when she counted the dowry the next day. Considering how much she valued the Gu family, she definitely had to find this hairpin. Otherwise, it would be difficult for her to explain herself if the Gu family asked about it in the future. Of course, if she did not want to make a fuss, she still had him, right? She could still make a fuss by pushing him from behind. That fool, Madame Yang, might even shout it out herself. In that case, it would be strange if the Gu family and the Shi family could continue to be friends. Ha 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 ha. Xiao couldn't help but laugh at the thought. And yet she had a good plan, but that brat Lu Hongxiu had been following Madame Yang. So she had no way to do anything. Xiao was a little anxious. If this continued, Gu Yundong and the rest would finish their banquet. After a while, her eyes suddenly darted around. She simply pulled a girl about her age along and joined the children in playing. The children were stunned for a moment, but Madame Yang was very happy. After all, these children were shorter than her. She was overjoyed that the two newcomers were as tall as her. Lu Hongxiu, who was standing at the back, narrowed her eyes slightly. She was not following Madame Yang. As long as Madame Yang was in her line of sight, there was nothing to worry about. She just felt that this girl who suddenly appeared beside Madame Yang was strange. Lu Hongxiu was meticulous, so she paid more attention. Soon, she realized that this girl would come to Madame Yang's side from time to time and mutter. She looked like she was joking, but the scheme in her eyes could not be hidden from her. After all, Xiao was inexperienced. It was not enough to play tricks in front of Lu Hongxiu. Lu Hongxiu did not know what she wanted to do, and could only watch. However, she still called her sister, Lu Hongxiao, over and asked her to inform Mississippi Gu Yundong had already finished eating, but she could not leave halfway. In addition, the person at the table had been talking to her, so she could only continue to sit. Unexpectedly, Lu Hongxiao ran over and secretly told her that someone had designs on Madame Yang. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. TSK, someone actually had designs on her mother again. Last time, there was Jiang Yongkong, who was so blind this time. She just didn't know if they wanted to harm her mother, or if they wanted her help. Gu Yundong got up, informed Sherdashan and his wife, and followed Lu Hongxiao out. Lu Hongxiao was standing outside the door. When she saw her, she hurriedly called out, "Mississippi." "Yes, how's my mother?" "Who's the person who approached her?" Unexpectedly, Lu Hongxiao had a strange expression on her face. She looked at Gu Yundong as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows and looked forward, but she did not see Madame Yang. "Where's my mother?" She frowned. Lu Hongxiao was not with Madame Yang? "It's over there. I'll bring Miss over." As Lu Hongxiao spoke, she led Gu Yundong to a corner not far away. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 964. I squeezed it back before she reached the corner of the wall. She heard begging sounds coming from inside. The voice wasn't loud. When she got closer, she could vaguely hear the words, "Stop hitting me." "Hit?" Gu Yundong frowned and turned to look at Lu Hongxiao. The latter nodded and said, "It's the girl called Xiao." Gu Yundong took a few steps forward and turned the corner. He saw a few children surrounding a girl, their little fists landing on her. Yinshu snorted. "Who asked you to bully my mother? Do you think we're blind? How dare you be so unscrupulous in front of me? It'll be unfilial if I don't hit you." "Yes, unfilial." Yinka swung her fist and hit Xiao's shoulder hard. It was just that her position was not very good, and her own hand hurt to death. The little girl immediately changed her leg and kicked her. Xiao had a ball of cloth in her mouth, and was trying hard to spit it out. She finally shook it off and quickly said, "Let go of me quickly, or I'll call for help." At this moment, her hand was pressed back by Madame Yang. Madame Yang was very strong. She was used to doing farm work in the past. Now that her family's conditions were better, she still liked to do it, especially those potted plants. It took a lot of strength to move them around. There was nothing wrong with restraining a little girl like He Xiao. As for the children surrounding He Xiao, other than Yunshu, Yunke and Yuanji, there were also Zhengyu, Zhenglu and Nyodan from the Zheng family. However, only Yunshu and the other two attacked. The others acted as a wall and surrounded He Xiao. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. After watching silently for a while, she finally said, "What happened?" The few of them turned around at the same time. Madame Yang couldn't help but loosen her grip. He Xiao immediately took the opportunity to escape and took 2 steps back. Now that her hands and feet were free, He Xiao immediately said, "Miss Gu, you saw it with your own eyes. I was blocked here by your mother and your brother and sister. Look at my clothes. They're all footprints from their kicks. My body hurts to death. If I walk out now, others will know that they're bullying me with numbers. I'm afraid your Gu family's reputation will be ruined." Oh, the guilty party was the first to complain. Gu Yundong found it funny. Why did they hit you? What else could it be? Naturally, they flew into a rage out of humiliation because I didn't give in to your mother when we were playing. Nonsense. Yunshu immediately retorted. She said to Gu Yundong, "Eldest sister, she has ulterior motives. She actually wanted to instigate mother to steal. She has evil intentions. We can't let her off easily." "I didn't," He Xiao immediately retorted. Madame Yang snorted heavily. "Yes, you did. You told me yourself. You said that you wanted me to take back the hairpin Dongdong gave to Laner. That belongs to Dongdong. You even know where the hairpin is." As she spoke, she looked at Gu Yundong and said proudly, "She still treats me as a 3-year-old child. How could I fall for such a trick?" Gu Yundong nodded. "Mother is the best." Madame Yang agreed. "That's right. Dongdong said that what she gave away belongs to someone else. How can I take it back? That's called going back on your word and being despised. How can I let Dongdong be despised? So I rejected her very firmly. I didn't expect. She actually called me a fool and even pinched me." Yunke raised her hand. "I saw it, so I pinched her back." "I pinched her back too," Madame Yang said impatiently. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 965. Big sister is right. Yunshu and Yuanji, who were standing at the side, also nodded vigorously. "We've all pinched her back." Gu Yundong. "Big sis said that we can't be quiet when we're being bullied, especially when the situation is advantageous to us. There are so many of us, and we're on our own territory. I'm also a future martial arts expert. There's no reason for me to not retaliate when someone attacks, right?" Yunshu had always treated Gu Yundong's words as a wise saying, and he carried it out very thoroughly. As for martial arts master, this was something he had self-proclaimed. Ever since the accident that almost cost Tong'an his life, Yunshu had been very active in practicing martial arts with him. Yuanji was the same. However, while Yunshu was very good at studying, his talent in martial arts was really ordinary. Still, he was very hardworking and firmly believed that he would definitely be an expert in the future. Gu Yundong nodded. "You're right." As expected of what she had taught him, it was very good. However, He Xiao, who was at the side, almost vomited blood. Indeed, she had only pinched Madame Yang, but that was not serious. It was not heavy at all, and did not hurt her. In the end, these brats had pinched her arm until it was bruised. Even now, she still felt a dull pain. What was worse was that not only did they push her into this corner, but they also taught her a lesson. He Xiao was filled with regret. Madame Yang was not an ordinary fool. Gu Yundong looked at He Xiao. "So, you want to scheme against my mother, right? And I gave that hairpin to Lan Huar. It should have gone to the Jiang family with Lan Huar now. Why is it still here? Did you steal it?" He Xiao's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly looked up. Unexpectedly, she met Gu Yundong's sharp gaze and immediately defended herself. "I didn't, Miss Gu. Do you believe what they say? The children just don't like me and are messing with me. I've never said anything about a hairpin. Never. If you don't believe me, look at your mother. Do you see any traces of me pinching her?" After saying that, she wanted to walk out. "Forget it," I won't argue with the children. I'm unlucky. Can I leave? Xiao wanted to leave before Gu Yundong could react. Unfortunately, just as she turned around, Tong Shuitao stood behind her. Immediately after, Gu Yundong's faint voice sounded from behind. You're a guest of the Shi family. You clearly know the relationship between the Shi family and my family, but you still want to use that hairpin to frame my family. You have a grudge with the Shi family and want to sow discord, right? Tell me, where is that hairpin? Xiao's expression changed. She wanted to leave, but her path was blocked. She wanted to defend herself, but Gu Yundong seemed to have guessed her intentions. She rolled her eyes and immediately wanted to shout at the top of her lungs, "Help!" Before she could finish speaking, Gu Yundong struck her from behind and knocked her out. Tong Shuitao caught her and asked Gu Yundong, "Miss, how should we deal with this? This is a guest of the Shi family, and the Shi family's banquet isn't over yet. Take her home first. Later, call Shi Dajiang and the others over and see what they plan to do." Yes. After Tong Shuitao finished speaking, she carried Xiao back to the Gu family, as if she was carrying a dead person. The Shi family's banquet was at noon. At this moment, they were almost done eating. Other than a few women from the same village who helped, only their close relatives were still there. The sister-in-law of the He family was there, but she could not find Xiao at this moment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 966. Crying from her foolishness. The He family's parents also came, but they had something to do at home. They quickly went back after eating, leaving the He family's eldest sister-in-law to find Xiao and bring her back. However, now that Xiao could not be found, she immediately became anxious and quickly went to look for Shi Dajiang and his wife. It was at this moment that Tong Shuitao came to the door and told them about Xiao. When Shi Dajiang heard that Xiao had actually schemed against Madame Yang to ruin his daughter's marriage, he was furious. He quickly went to the Gu residence with his wife, He Yi, and brought the He family's eldest sister-in-law along. The He family's eldest sister-in-law was dumbfounded. She only found out what had happened from He Yi on the way to the Gu family. She was so angry that she almost collapsed. She wished she could turn around and go home quickly, so that her in-laws could take her sister-in-law away. What was going on? Was Xiao's brain damaged? It was fine if she caused trouble for the Shi family. After all, He Yi was her aunt. If she made a mistake, she could put the matter behind her. But she actually had designs on the Gu family to scheme against Madame Yang? Over the course of the day, the He family's eldest sister-in-law had heard everything about the Gu family. She knew that the Gu family had fled from the famine, and that her family was the richest in the entire village. She knew that Gu Yundong had dared to tie someone to a tree and slap them before she had her current achievements. She knew that Gu Yundong knew the nobles in the prefecture. There were too many rumors about the Gu family. How could Xiao provoke such a person who could subdue a hooligan like Zhuangzi? They did not even dare to offend Zhuangzi. How could they have the courage to offend Gu Yundong? She was simply about to cry from her sister-in-law's stupidity. However, even though the dissatisfaction in her heart had reached its peak, the He family's eldest sister-in-law still had to bite the bullet and go to the Gu family to bring her out. Coincidentally, when they arrived at the Gu residence, Xiao had also woken up. When she saw the He family's sister-in-law, she immediately cried and defended herself. However, the He family's eldest sister-in-law clearly did not believe her words, and she did not know what to do. Gu Yundong's ears hurt from the noise. She frowned and said, "All right, shut up. You said you're innocent, right? That's simple. There are many people coming and going in the Shi family today. There are many guests. Someone must have seen you hide the hairpin. I'm not afraid of trouble. Later, find everyone. I'll ask them one by one. Someone will be able to tell me the truth." Xiao immediately did not dare to speak. When she hid the hairpin, she had really met a few people. Also, someone had seen the hairpin in her hand before, but they did not look at it very carefully. Moreover, that person was not in Lan Huar's room at that time. He did not know that Gu Yundong had given Lan Huar a hairpin to add makeup, so he did not suspect anything. However, if the matter really blew up and those people associated everything, what could they not understand? Her reputation would be completely ruined. Xiao was silent. Everyone present knew that she had tacitly agreed. Yi was very angry. She had an honest personality, but no matter how honest she had a reverse scale. Lan Huar was one. This person actually wanted to cause trouble on Lan Huaner's wedding day, and even stole the hairpin to frame Madame Yang. Not only did she want to harm Lan Huar, but she also wanted to harm Zhuangzi. He pounced over and started punching Xiao. Are you human? Are you human? You're so young, but you're so vicious. I don't have a niece like you. Sure Dashan was also angry, but this was He's niece. He was only a remote relative, so it was not appropriate for him to make a move. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 967. Different from what I thought, hence, only the eldest daughter-in-law of the He family went up to stop her. Aunt, calm down first. It's indeed Xiao's fault. Can you get her to apologize to you? Xiao dodged twice but failed. She wanted to retaliate, but she was glared at by the He family's sister-in-law. Coupled with Sher Dashan's shout, she allowed He to hit her again. When He was pulled away, Yundong asked, Uncle Sher, how do you plan to deal with this matter? Sher Dashan and He looked at each other. How should they deal with it? To be honest, they could not do anything to Xiao. After all, they were all relatives. In addition, Lan Huar had gotten married smoothly. They could just take the hairpin back. However, she still couldn't calm down. Therefore, He looked at Xiao fiercely and said, I won't have a niece like you in the future. From now on, don't come to my house again. My house doesn't welcome you. Xiao lowered her head and secretly pursed her lips. If she was not welcomed, so be it. Who cared? Anyway, the Sher family couldn't do anything to her. Xiao was a little smug. She pulled the He family's sister-in-law. Let's go. Since we're done, let's go home. I'm in so much pain. Yundong smiled. Who said you can leave? The Sher family has been done, but I'm not done here. Yundong naturally had no control over what the Sher couple wanted to do. Moreover, with their temperaments, that was the most they could do. However, she did not know what Zhuangzi would do after he returned from the Jiang family. You're not done yet? My body is covered in bruises from your beatings. What else do you want? Do you want me to lose an arm or a leg? Xiao was furious. She was about to reveal her arm and let others see her injury. However, there were men present. The He family's eldest sister-in-law quickly pressed her down. Yundong smiled and said, You were the one who pinched my mother first, so we returned it to you. But it's not so easy to get over the fact that you schemed against my mother. These are two different things, okay? Xiao had never seen such a shameless person. What do you want? Yundong looked at Madame Yang. Mother, she schemed against you. What do you want to do? Madame Yang was a little confused. Yunshu and Yunka immediately went to her side to give her ideas. After a long while, Madame Yang finally decided. She said seriously, I want her to stand at our door and shout I'm a big fool 3 times. Yundong. So you guys discussed for so long and came to this conclusion? At least ask her for compensation for mental damage, right? But seeing that Madame Yang, Yunshu, and Yunka seemed quite satisfied, Yundong could only rub her forehead and agree. Xiao screamed, Are you guys crazy? I'm not going. If she did as she was told, how would she have any face in the future? Yongfu village was not far from her village. Later, all the villagers would know. How could she get married? Yundong did not care. If you don't do it, then prepare to go back without an arm or a leg. You're going too far. Don't do things whose consequences are unbearable. If she had not targeted Madame Yang first, Yundong would not have known who she was. Xiao was unwilling. The He family's eldest sister-in-law quickly pulled her to the side to persuade her. After a long time, Xiao finally nodded with a red face and trembling body. As expected, she ran to the entrance of the Gu residence and shouted 3 times. Then, before the onlookers could appear, she quickly ran away. Madame Yang, Yunshu, and Yunka were speechless. Why was it different from what they had imagined? Shouldn't there be many people watching the show? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 968. Compensation. Gu Yundong wanted to laugh. She shrugged and said, "This is your choice." Now they should know that when they wanted to punish others in the future, they should consider it carefully, right? And he had left. But Gu Yundong had also found out the whereabouts of the hairpin from Xiao. She said to Sherdashan and his wife, "The hairpin is hidden under the bed in Lan Huar's room. You should be able to find it when you go back. If you find it, bring it over. It's not easy for you to go to the Jiang family. I'll get Shuetao to make a trip and come back with my father and the others. It won't attract anyone's attention." "Thank you, boss." Gu Yundong waved her hand. Sherdashan and his wife were still a little ashamed. After all, it was their relatives who caused this. If not for the Gu family's bright minds, they would have really suffered. The two of them quickly returned home. There were still some guests at home, so they stayed behind to help eat dinner. While Sherdashan was entertaining them, he found the hairpin and rushed to the Gu residence. Just like that, a small storm subsided until Zhuangzi returned. He came back very late. As the brother-in-law, he had to stay at the Jiang family's wedding banquet after sending her off. He was forced to drink a lot and was dizzy. He only woke up the next day. Unexpectedly, when he woke up and heard his parents mention the hairpin, he exploded on the spot. After washing his face, Zhuangzi went straight to the He family. He was not someone to be trifled with, especially when it came to the He family, who did not treat them as family at all. He kicked over the basket in the He family's courtyard. Then he asked Xiao for compensation, but the He family refused. Uncle He even scolded Zhuangzi for being unfilial and disrespectful to his elders. Zhuangzi almost broke his hand. In any case, his sister was already married, and he was not in a hurry to get married. He did not care about reputation at all. He directly started fighting with his uncle. Uncle He was no match for him at all. In the end, the others in the He family could only give him 1 tael of silver as compensation. Zhuangzi took the silver, and even stole an old hen in the courtyard before he left. "This is to calm my parents down. Who asked Xiao to scare them yesterday?" "You." Uncle He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. "In the future, the He family will have nothing to do with your mother. We won't be relatives anymore. We'll sever our ties." Zhuangzi sneered. "I can't wait. Who cares about you guys?" He had long wanted to cut ties with them. Ever since the 2 elders of the He family passed away, Uncle He had treated it as if He did not exist. When the Shi family was in trouble, the He family had cut ties with them long ago. They had not interacted with each other for more than 10 years. What was the difference from cutting ties? Now that Zhuangzi's family had become rich, they started to rush over to take advantage of them. It was better not to have such relatives. Zhuangzi took the silver and carried the old hen home. When he told his parents about this, Sherdashan had the same thoughts as Zhuangzi. However, He's eyes were red and she felt very uncomfortable. No matter what, that man was her biological brother. Now that she had come this far, she felt as if she had been alone when she came to this world. Zhuangzi scratched his head. He did not know how to comfort her, so he simply left the house. He left the old hen behind, and went to the Gu family with the tael of silver. "Boss, the He family compensated you with this silver. Take it." Gu Yundong glanced at the silver and took it. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 969. Zhuangzi's decision. Zhuangzi scratched his head and said, "There's one more thing." "What is it?" Zhuangzi found it difficult to speak. He could not help but scratch his head again, as if he was organizing his words appropriately. Gu Yundong did not rush him. He went about his own business. After nearly 15 minutes, Zhuangzi took a deep breath and said, "Boss, I think I want to bring my parents to the prefectural city too." Gu Yundong was stunned. "Bring your parents with you?" "Yes." Once he opened his mouth, it was much easier to continue. "I've asked around. The rent for a slightly smaller house in the prefecture capital is about 1 to 2 taels a month. When I live with Jiang Bao, the rent is originally half each. If I bring my parents over together, I'll pay a little more. That's right, that way, my parents won't be able to continue working in the boss orchard. This was also the reason why he had been hesitating and did not know how to speak. Gu Yundong's fingers tapped lightly on the table. She looked up at Zhuangzi and asked, "Did you make this decision because of the He family?" Zhuangzi said, "Half and half. One reason is that the He family is not easy to get along with. If I leave, they might cause trouble again. You know my parents. They might hold it in when they are bullied. If we can take a step back, we will. The other reason is that after Lan Huar is married, it won't be easy for her to come home. There's a long journey to the prefectural city, and I can only come back once every year and a half. I'm afraid that they'll be alone at home. It won't feel good." Gu Yundong smiled. Zhuangzi was indeed a filial person. Although his previous actions were repulsive, after he became a hooligan, he did not let Sherdashin and his wife continue to be bullied and taken advantage of. She thought for a moment. There's no big problem with the fruit forest. Just let Zhaozhu manage it. If he can't handle it, just hire more helpers. However, have you calculated your cost if you have to bring your parents to the prefectural city? Other than the rent of the house, there's also food and clothing. It's not easy for you to earn money alone to support 3 people in the prefectural city. Zhuangzi was vexed. He had calculated this cost before. It was indeed a little difficult. At the very least, it would be difficult for him to save money again. Gu Yundong continued. Also, have you thought about it? Your parents like to plant and take care of fruit trees. This is something they like. If they are brought to the prefectural city and can only stay at home all day to cook, wash and chat with others, will they live comfortably? Zhuangzi's body stiffened. Yes, that was the biggest problem. Update T by Nav0. C0 He wanted his parents not to work too hard and enjoy life, but he also wanted them to do what they liked to do. However, how could anyone get all the good things in this world? Zhuangzi immediately felt conflicted. In that case, he couldn't bring his parents to the prefectural city? Could it be that he would continue to stay in the county city as a shopkeeper, and let Chen Jinkai go to the prefectural city to be a shop assistant? However, he had already promised his boss that everything had been arranged. There was no reason for him to go back on his word. Seeing that a large amount of hair on his forehead was about to be pulled off, Gu Yundong smiled and said, "I have an idea here. Do you want to hear it?" "Yes, of course." Zhuangzi's eyes suddenly lit up. The boss was smart. Her idea would definitely be the best of both worlds. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 970. Let's go together, Gu Yundong said. We have a manor on the outskirts of the prefectural city. It's used to grow fruit trees and medicinal herbs. Your parents like to grow fruits, so it's just right to go there. In her opinion, Sherdashin and his wife were the best at planting trees. Last time, she had also walked around the manor. Although those fruit trees were growing well, the taste of the fruits could not compare to the ones planted by Sherdashin and his wife. She could tell if she ate a few. However, such technical talents could only be chanced upon by luck. If Sherdashin and his wife went to the manor, it would be a good idea. With Zhaozhu here, he would interact more with Sherdashin and have a certain amount of experience in taking care of fruit trees. Letting Sherdashin and his wife leave at this time would not result in a bad outcome. That farmstead is outside the city, and there's a place to stay in it. If you want to see your parents, you'll be there soon after leaving the city. It's much closer than Yongfu village. The more Zhuangzi listened, the brighter his eyes became. Yes. If it was just outside the city, it would be equivalent to the distance from the county to home. It was no different from now. Moreover, their parents could continue to do what they liked. Zhuangzi felt that there was no better idea than this. He immediately thanked Gu Yundong again and again. Thank you, boss. Boss, you're the best boss in the world. I'll definitely be loyal to you for the rest of my life and work for you. Really? Gu Yundong. No need to go that far. Had he been with Jiang Bao for too long? Had he even learned how to flatter? Zhuangzi chuckled. Gu Yundong waved her hand. All right, hurry up and go back. You have to discuss this with your parents first and get their consent. All right, I'll go back now. After saying that, He jumped and turned to run out of the Gu residence. That day, Zhuangzi did not come again. The next day was the day Lan Hua returned home. Jiang Bao brought her back. After lunch at the She residence, the entire family came to the Gu residence. Gu Yundong watched as Lan Hua combed her hair into a woman's bun and smiled shyly. From time to time, she would look into Jiang Bao's eyes. The romance between a young couple was vividly displayed. It seemed like she had been living quite well these few days. The interaction between the two was so sweet that Zhuangzi could not take it anymore. He rubbed his arms and quickly got down to business. Boss, we've already discussed it. My parents have decided to go to the manor on the outskirts of the prefectural city. They'll pack up in the next few days and come with us. Gu Yundong nodded. This was also within her expectations. Shi Dashan and his wife did not have any particularly good friends in the village. In the past, they spent most of their time in the fields or at home. Especially at that time, Zhuangzi was a hooligan, so no one interacted with this family. Later on, they started to make friends, but they did not have good friends, so they did not feel reluctant. Also, Zhuangzi continued, although my parents will live in the manor in the future, Jiang Bao and I still plan to rent a house outside together. After all, Lan Hua is going to the prefecture capital with us. If Lan Hua did not go, he and Jiang Bao could live in the courtyard at the back of the shop. That would be convenient. Now that he was bringing Lan Hua along, it was not appropriate. Anyway, they were a family, so they might as well rent a house outside. Gu Yundong's face lit up. Is Lan Hua truly going there? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 971. Unexpected news. Yes. Lan Hua nodded in embarrassment. Logically speaking, she should have stayed at home to take care of her in-laws. However, Jiang Bao insisted on taking her away. They were newlyweds, and he did not want them to be separated. What was the difference between that and not being married? Although Jiang Bao's parents were a little unhappy, Jiang Bao was the most promising person in the family now. In addition, Jiang Bao's words were pleasant, and he promised to give more money to the family. His parents did not force Lan Hua to stay at home. However, since Lan Hua had gone to the prefectural city, they would get the couple to quickly give birth to a child. Jiang Bao agreed immediately. In any case, he had achieved his goal. Gu Yundong laughed. Since you're also going to the prefectural city, do you want to consider becoming a female worker at New Tea Pavilion? Everyone fell silent and looked at Gu Yundong in shock. The name New Tea Pavilion was not unfamiliar to them. Although they had never seen it with their own eyes, they knew that this was a shop opened by the boss in the prefectural city. It was specially used to entertain female guests. The shopkeepers, chefs, and waiters inside were all female. Now the boss actually wanted to hire Lan Hua as a female worker? This, Lan Hua became excited. Can I really go? Of course you can. I've wanted to find you for a long time. However, you wanted to get married previously. After you got married, I wasn't sure if you wanted to stay at home or go to the prefectural city, so I didn't say anything. Now that it's confirmed, I naturally have to ask if you're willing. Yes, of course I'm willing. As a female worker, she could earn more money. Now that she had her own small family, she would have her own children in the future. She had heard that everything in the prefectural city was expensive. If she had to rely on Jiang Bao alone to support her and her children and provide for her parents, how much pressure would that be? Hence, she had already thought about it. When she arrived at the prefectural city, she would do more embroidery to cover for the family's expenses. Although it was not much, he could at least help Jiang Bao share some of the burden. He would not be too flustered if he had some money. Unexpectedly, before she could go to the prefectural city, her boss gave her a huge surprise. It was just, "Boss, can I do it well? I don't know anything. Will I mess it up for you? If you don't know anything, then learn. Everyone learns everything from nothing." Gu Yundong felt that with Lan Huaner's smartness, she was definitely much better than that Shao from before. I'll bring you to meet Su Qing later. She already has experience. If you have any questions later, just ask her. Okay. The matter was settled just like that. The Shi family was very happy. Jiang Bao brought Lan Hua home, and did not mention this to his parents. They had agreed on how much money to give the family. What if the brothers at home were unhappy because Lan Hua had an extra salary and wanted him to give an extra? Jiang Bao was planning for himself. In the next few days, the Shi family and the Jiang family began to prepare to go to the prefectural city. Yundong handed over the fruit trees that the Shi family was in charge of to Zhao. Zhao was very happy. The more he managed, the more capable he was. However, he had already started to hand over some to his son. Gosheng was also becoming more and more diligent. The relationship between the father and son had taken a huge step forward compared to before, and many of the knots in his heart were slowly untied. 5 days later, the Shi family and Jiang Bao with his wife placed their luggage in the carriage and prepared to head to the prefectural city. Yundong had to go with her. After all, she had not been to the prefectural city since the new year. She had to look at the account book and send red packets after the new year. She had to explain things clearly. Unexpectedly, just as they were about to set off, they heard an unexpected piece of news. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 972. The Li family's second branch, the niece of the Shi family, Xiao, was engaged. Moreover, the person she was engaged to was from Yongfu village. The Shi family was a little stunned. What was the He family thinking? The two families had just fallen out, and the He family wanted to marry their daughter here? What kind of family was so attractive to Xiao? Yundong asked around and got an answer. Her expression immediately became strange. It was actually the Li family, the son of the second branch of the Li family. Yundong did not have a good impression of the Li family, but she hated the first branch of the Li family the most. Although the second and third branches turned a blind eye to Shao Qingyuan's experiences when he was young, and were dissatisfied with old Master Li doting on Shao Qingyuan, they did not persecute him too much. Therefore, Yundong only treated them as strangers. Ever since she and Shao Qingyuan caused a scene in the Li family last time, the Li family's first branch did not dare to make a sound. They were like invisible people in the village, and did not dare to approach the Gu family at all. It was said that they still did not dare to walk on the main road that she had built. This was also good. Only when they were afraid would they behave themselves. As for the second and third branches, they did not have much of a grudge with the Gu family. Although they were a little afraid, they wanted to earn money. Last time, they wanted to work in the Gu family's workshop, but they were rejected by Tongan in the first round. She really did not expect the son of the second branch to be with Xiao of the He family. When He heard this, she sighed slightly. Forget it. She has nothing to do with us anymore. It doesn't matter who she marries. Anyway, we're going to the prefectural city. We won't have many chances to meet them in the future. The Shi family members nodded. Zhuangzi was glad that he had made the decision to bring his parents to the prefectural city. Otherwise, with his parents' personality, they might have been schemed against by Xiao. After all, she was so bold that she even dared to touch Madame Yang. If that was the case, Zhuangzi would definitely prevent her from marrying into Yongfu village. The group quickly forgot about Xiao and went to the prefectural city happily. When they arrived at the Xuanhe prefecture, it was already late. Yundong asked everyone to go to the small courtyard to rest. They would go to the shop tomorrow to arrange work. There were not many people in the small courtyard, and there was already a lot of dust. Fortunately, the Shi family, Jiang Bao, and the others were diligent people. After cleaning up for a while, they could stay. Dinner was easy to settle. When Shi Dashan came, he had brought a lot of vegetables that he had picked from the side of the house. Now they were filled in 2 big boxes. They could easily make some meals. Yi and Lan Huan went to the kitchen to work. Yundong took this opportunity to knock on the door of the neighbor's house with a caddy of white sugar, 2 cans, and a few pastries. There was a family of 5 living here. The owner's surname was Wang, and the Wang family's son was also studying at Tianhai Academy. He had become familiar with Dajiang, and the two of them often discussed knowledge together, and went to the academy together. When the Gu family returned to Yongfu village, there was no one in the small courtyard, so they asked the Wang family to help take care of it. Now that Yundong was back, She naturally had to thank him. When the Wang family saw that she had brought over a lot of things, they quickly declined. Yundong said, I have to go back after staying here for a few days. I still have to ask you to take care of the house. If you don't accept the gifts, I won't be able to continue troubling you. The Wang family was speechless and accepted the items. But just as Yundong was about to leave, Mother Wang suddenly pulled her back and looked mysterious. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 973. Someone is looking for you, Yundong, let me tell you. When your family was not around, someone came a few times and kept wandering around your house. I don't know what he was doing. I asked a few questions, and she asked me when your family would come back. Yundong was stunned. Her first reaction was to wonder if youngest Uncle Gu had been found. But on second thought, if it was youngest Uncle Gu, he must have gone to Aunt K's place. He wouldn't have come to the small courtyard directly. She was a little disappointed. She calmed herself down and asked, Who was it? What did she look like? It's just a young woman. She's been here several times. She's been especially diligent these past 2 days. Oh, right. When she came yesterday, there was a young lady beside her. Yundong searched her mind. A young woman with a young girl, who knew the address of her small courtyard. That could only be Shao Yuan and her mother. Yundong described the appearance of the mother and daughter to Mother Wang, who nodded repeatedly. That's right, that's right. It's them. Yundong, do you know them? Yes, I know them. They might be looking for our family for something. I'll go over and take a look tomorrow. Then Yundong took her leave. Early the next morning, Yundong brought the Shi family to Gus and met Zhuangzi. Gus was as busy as ever. Fortunately, there were 2 employees and there was a break. Zhuangzi's eyes lit up when he saw the shop. He secretly said to Jiang Bao, Indeed, I made the right choice to come to the prefectural city. Look at how big this shop is and how good the business is. The prefectural city is so prosperous. In the future, becoming the shopkeeper of this prefectural city will be my goal. Jiang Bao also raised his head and looked around. Compared to the prefectural city, the difference was too great. He had just walked all the way from the small courtyard. The crowd on this street was not something the county city could compare to. As for Gus, not only were there many people coming and going, but the customers were also very generous. Other than white sugar, there was no restriction on buying preserved fruit jam, so there were especially many people buying it. No wonder the Gu family's workshop wanted to hire so many people to rush the production. At this moment, be it Jiang Bao, Zhuangzi, or even Lan Huar, they were filled with fighting spirit. Now there were 2 shop assistants in the shop. One was Ashu, and the other was Su Changshan. Ashu was originally a temporary worker. Now that Zhuangzi was here, he was finally free. Speaking of which, he preferred to run around, and did not like to stay in a shop and be busy. Yundong called Su Changshan over and introduced him to Zhuangzi. From now on, you will both be the shop assistants in this shop. Get to know each other first. You have to get along well, and help each other. Su Changshan was honest, but he still nodded excitedly. On the other hand, Zhuangzi was very adaptable. After all, he had been a shopkeeper before. He instantly chatted with Su Changshan. Yundong then distributed this year's open business red packets and told Zhuangzi about the shop's business. Then they went to Shao Qingyuan's pharmacy. Jiang Bao already knew Dr. Xiong. He was also familiar with Aju in the shop. In addition, he was smart and quickly integrated into the pharmacy team. Yundong would not ask Dr. Xiong about the pharmacy. After all, he was focused on studying medicine. However, with Aju around, it was enough for her to know the situation of the shop. Finally, Yundong brought He and Lan Huar to New Tea Pavilion. New Tea Pavilion entertained the female guests, so Zhuangzi and the others stayed behind. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 974. Where's my Aunt Ko? With Madame Chiu at New Tea Pavilion, it had indeed improved greatly since her visit last time. At least the waiters wouldn't make a fuss anymore. Everything seemed to be in order. When Yundong arrived, All of them stopped what they were doing and greeted her respectfully, Boss Gu. This Boss Gu was not to be trifled with at all. They still had a deep impression of what she had done in the shop last time. Whether it was the handling of the quarrel between the two madams, or the small gifts given to every guest, it was still a hot topic. During this period of time, there were even customers who came from time to ask if there were any more paintings. They could directly spend money to buy them. It was said that all the husbands and brothers of these madams and young ladies wanted it. Unfortunately, there were no more paintings. Gu Yundong brought Lan Huar to Madame Qiu and said, "Madame Qiu, didn't you say that this new tea pavilion is still short of people? This is Lan Huar. She's from the same village as me. She's smart and has a good image. Is there a problem with her helping in this new tea pavilion?" Lan Huar quickly followed Gu Yundong's instructions. With a smile on her face, she greeted obediently, "Hello, Madame Qiu." Madame Qiu nodded slightly and sized up Lan Huar, feeling slightly satisfied. She was still looking forward to the person Gu Yundong had found. At least, she was better than the people that Madame Dai and Yeshuang had found. The waiters they brought were all servants who had signed a death contract in the residence. Admittedly, such loyal waiters would not be easily bribed. However, perhaps because they were used to being servants, they would subconsciously lower themselves when they met guests. Madame Qiu had to adjust them for a long time to change this bad habit. On the other hand, Su Qing did not have the cautious attitude of a servant. Although she also bent slightly in front of the guests, her back was straight. She even dared to raise her head in front of the guests. She was magnanimous and spoke smoothly. More importantly, she was also smart. As long as Madame Qiu gave her some pointers, she would be able to learn very quickly. She was the person Madame Qiu was most satisfied with. Now that Gu Yundong had sent over Lan Huar, Madame Qiu was already 50% satisfied when she saw the girl's refreshing appearance and clear eyes. All right, leave her behind. However, I have to say this first. If she can't satisfy me in half a month, I'll return her. Of course. We agreed that this new tea pavilion is now managed by you. Gu Yundong was confident in this. If Lan Huar was stupid, she would not have sent her over. Otherwise, wouldn't she be slapping herself in the face? Gu Yundong called Su Qing over and said to Lan Huar, "This is Su Qing. Su Changshan, whom we met earlier, is her brother. She has been working in New Tea Pavilion for a long time. If you have anything you don't understand, just ask her. There are few customers now. Let Su Qing show you around the shop first." Okay. Lan Huar was a little excited. When she entered just now, she felt that this shop was very different. She was filled with curiosity and excitement. Gu Yundong let the two of them go alone, and he followed. Then, she asked Madame Qiu about the situation at New Tea Pavilion. Madame Qiu, on the other hand, was very happy. It's very good. This milk tea shop, which is unique in the prefectural city, is very popular. If it weren't for the fact that the weather is cold and people are lazy and unwilling to go out, I'm afraid it would have been filled with people even if it was morning. Where's Aunt Ku? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 975. Looking for eldest Aunt Ku was also helping out in the shop, but Gu Yundong hadn't seen her since her arrival. Madame Qiu waved her hand and lowered her voice. "Sister Ku has gone to the capital." Gu Yundong was shocked. To the capital? Why? Did she go alone? When did she go? What happened? There were a lot of questions at once, and Madame Qiu could hear her anxiety and knew that she was very concerned about Aunt Ku. Therefore, she quickly said, "She went there a few days ago. She and Nie Shuang went to the capital. It seemed to be about young Master Nie." Young Master Nie? Nie Tsong? Ever since she came to the prefectural city, she had not seen Nie Tsong again. Aunt Ku only said that he had been sent elsewhere by his father to train. So he had gone to the capital? Seeing that she was still frowning, Madame Qiu comforted her. "Don't worry. I heard from Madame Dai that it shouldn't be a big deal, so you don't have to worry too much." Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief. Since Madame Dai said so, the problem must not be serious. She then asked about Madame Dai's situation, and found out that she was not in the prefectural city either. It seemed that Dai Wenhua had escorted her to celebrate some old madam's birthday. Gu Yundong dispelled her plan to visit the Dai residence. Then, Madame Qiu told her about the major events that had happened in the prefectural city in the past few months. Gu Yundong had an idea. After she finished reading the account book, she planned to leave New Tea Pavilion. Gu Yundong still had to look for Shao Yuan and her mother, and ask them if there was anything urgent. She planned to go alone. It was not far from here. Therefore, she asked He Yi and her daughter to stay here. If they could help, they would help. Or they could see how others treated the guests. It was good to get used to it in advance. Then Gu Yundong took Tong Shuitao and drove the carriage to Xingtao Street. She went to Shao Yuan's house and knocked on the door. Fortunately, Madame Fan and Shao Yuan were both at home. It seemed that they did not go to the flower market to sell flowers today. When Gu Yundong stepped through the door and realized that there were not many flowers in the courtyard, she understood. The weather was cold, and there were not many people in the flower market. There were also fewer flowers. When she saw Gu Yundong, Madame Fan quickly welcomed her. "Miss Gu, you're all back?" "No, I'm the only one back. I still have to leave in a few days. I heard from the aunt next door that you and Shao Yuan went to the small courtyard to look for our family. Is there anything wrong?" Madame Fan nodded. "There's indeed something I want to talk to your eldest aunt about." "Looking for eldest aunt?" "Yes, eldest aunt went to the flower and bird market to sell wood carvings." The stall was adjacent to Madame Fan's. The two of them seemed to be quite compatible. It was said that they had a good relationship. Here it goes. "Previously, your eldest aunt told me to help pay attention to whether there are any houses here for rent. Some time ago, a family's house on the street behind us happened to be empty. The house is not big, but the rent is all right. It costs 1 taels a month, so I went to the small courtyard to look for your eldest aunt." Madame Fan said, "It's just that I haven't seen her come back. Moreover, 2 days ago, I saw someone bringing people to take a look at the house. It was because the other party was not satisfied with the price and wanted to lower the price, so there was a dilemma. I'm worried that if we wait a little longer, that house will be rented out. To be honest, it's not easy to find a house there." Although Xingtao Street was also a chaotic place, and there were local tyrants who would come out from time to cause trouble, its position was actually not bad. The rent for the places with slightly better security was expensive. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 976. Gu Dajiang participates in the county examination. Gu Yundong pursed her lips slightly. Eldest Aunt Gu had told her and Gu Dajiang not long ago that she wanted to move out. Gu Dafeng was a strong-willed person. It was naturally not a problem for her to live in a small courtyard for a short period of time, but she could not live there forever. After all, this was the Gu family's house, and she had already married into the Bian family. There was no reason for her to stay at her younger brother's house with her husband and son. However, she did not have enough money on hand at the moment, so she could only find a cheaper and smaller place to rent. After getting to know Madame Fan, eldest Aunt Gu heard from her that Xingtao Street was not bad, and that there were acquaintances like Madame Fan and her daughter around, so she asked them to help keep an eye on it. She just didn't expect it to happen so quickly. But it was impossible for Gu Yundong to let Gu Dafeng move here now. Bian Han's legs had not recovered yet. If he moved out now, if he was not careful, the early treatment would all be in vain. Eldest Aunt was going to sell wood carvings. If Uncle was the only one at home, what if he accidentally fell? At the very least, they had to let him stand up on his own. Only then could he move out. In Gu Yundong's opinion, it would take at least half a year. Gu Yundong had said this to Gu Dafeng before. After some consideration, Gu Dafeng finally agreed to continue living in the small courtyard. However, she clearly did not have time to tell Madame Fan about this. This was a waste of Madame Fan's efforts. Wait a minute, Gu Yundong suddenly thought of Zhuangzi. Didn't they say that they were looking for a house? If they lived here, Zhuangzi and Jiang Bao could go to the shop with Su Changshan, and Su Qing could be with Lan Huar. The two women wouldn't have to worry too much. Everyone lived close to each other and could help each other. At the thought of this, Gu Yundong hurriedly said to Madame Fan, "Thank you for your kind intentions, Aunt. My eldest aunt won't rent a house here for the time being." Madame Fan was stunned for a moment before Gu Yundong continued, "But I do have someone who wants to rent a house. I'll get Shuetao to call them over. How about we take a look at that house later?" Madame Fan quickly nodded. "Of course." Gu Yundong asked Tong Shuetao to bring Zhuangzi and the others back. When the Shi family arrived, Madame Fan brought them to the street at the back and found the owner. The owner looked at the large group of people and was shocked. He asked Madame Fan, "There are so many people living here?" "Of course not," Gu Yundong replied. "The three of them are the tenants. We're just here to take a look." The owner heaved a sigh of relief. His house was small. If he squeezed so many people in, it would make him feel like his house was about to be destroyed. These people were up to no good. The group of people entered the house and walked around. The house was indeed small, and there were only 2 rooms. It was just right for Zhuangzi and Jiang Bao to have one each. However, the house was quite clean. Gu Yundong felt that it was not bad. Zhuangzi and the others were also quite satisfied. They even seemed a little excited. In the end, Gu Yundong helped bargain and rented it for 1.3 taels a month. After settling the matter of the house, Zhuangzi, Jiang Bao, and Lan Huar also did their own jobs and quickly got to work. 2 days later, Gu Yundong brought Shi Dashan and his wife to a manor in the suburbs and handed them over to Shuezongguang. After they settled down, she returned to Yongfu village without stopping. 5 days later, the date of the county examination arrived. The Gu family woke up early in the morning. Gu Yundong even checked Gu Dajiang's things several times. Very good. The brush, ink, paper, and inkstone were all there. The 10 pieces of clothing were also put on. Everything was ready. The rest would depend on her father's luck. She hoped that nothing would happen to his position. However, things did not go as planned. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 977. Daughters love. Outside the county examination hall, there were many people squeezing in. It was still early, and the sky was not completely bright. The temperature was low and very cold. Gu Dajiang couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he got out of the carriage. There were too many people, so the carriage could only stop a little further away, and then they had to get down to walk. Gu Dajiang held a test basket in his hand. It was filled with many things that Gu Yundong had prepared for him. The group of people followed him in. Not long after, they saw Qingyuan standing not far away. Yi Junkin and his family stood beside him. This time, only Yi Junkin participated in the county examination in Qingyuan's school. The 13-year-old youth was a little excited and nervous. His family even pulled him along and reminded him. Yi Junkin quickly greeted Gu Dajiang. Qingyuan looked at the two of them and said, "The first round of the county examination isn't difficult. Most people who can read and write well will pass. As long as you're not too nervous and maintain a clean and tidy paper, it won't be a problem to pass. The examiner will naturally explain the rules of the examination hall to you later. Just do as you're told." Then he lowered his voice and added, "Remember, you can't mention His Majesty's name or those of the late emperors." The two of them nodded and carefully noted it down. Not long after, there was a sound in front of them. They were preparing to enter the venue after the body check. Gu Dajiang and Yi Junkin quickly walked forward and lined up at the back of the queue. There were many people participating in the county examination. There were hundreds of people in Fengkai County, so they were divided into several rows for body check. Gu Dajiang stood at the back of the team and couldn't help but rub his nose. After all, he was considered rather old here. Most of the people who participated in the county examination were about the same age as Yi Junkin. For someone like Gu Dajiang, if he hadn't even passed the county examination, he would basically be recognized as not talented in studying. Most of them wouldn't take the examination again. Of course, there were also some who refused to give up. They were already so old and even had grandchildren, but they still refused to give up. Every year, such people participated in the county examination and would be pointed at and discussed softly. Now Gu Dajiang had become the subject of discussion. But he was fearless. Fortunately, it wasn't long before it was his turn. Dajiang handed the examination basket to the guard and let others remove his coat with a calm expression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The guard was speechless. Is this person crazy? He looked at Dajiang with a strange expression. The corners of his mouth twitched as he asked, "How many clothes are you wearing?" And Dajiang glanced at the shocked expressions of the people behind him from the corner of his eye. He coughed lightly and said, "There's nothing I can do. My children are filial. They insist that the weather is still cold, and the exam is quite stressful. If I accidentally catch a cold, won't all my previous efforts be in vain? I can't let them down." In the end, he even puffed out his chest. "Don't worry, they're all thin clothes. It's obvious at a glance. There's no problem." The corners of the guard's mouth twitched as he glared at Dajiang in dissatisfaction. This was clearly increasing their workload. Hence, the examination basket had already been checked. They were still looking at Dajiang's shoes. However, when they saw Dajiang putting on his clothes again and warming up, the others who were watching the joke couldn't help but shiver. They were so cold. After checking, Dajiang walked in relaxed. After entering, they still had to queue up and wait for the county officials to call their names. There would also be a ritual. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 978. Failed the first examination? After confirming everything, Dajiang walked in with his badge. However, the more he walked, the more hesitant he became. A faint smell that left a deep impression on him came from the tip of his nose. In the end, he stood in front of his examination booth with tears streaming down his face. Yundong, you jinx. His luck was indeed extraordinary. He was really next door to the toilet. Why aren't you going in yet? The guard behind looked over and asked with a frown. Dajiang chuckled in his heart. You already know the answer. Why don't I go in? Then why are you standing so far away? Why are you covering your nose when you ask? He wanted to take a deep breath, but after thinking about it, he decided not to. He even tried his best to slow down his breathing and slowly walked into the test shed. Fortunately, he had such experience before and was used to it. Or maybe not. Dajiang couldn't help but curse. He quickly took out the examination basket, found 2 patches of ointment, and pasted them on his temples. This was what Yundong had asked the doctor to prepare. It could refresh the mind. Then he took out a mask. This mask was very thin. It was only 2 pieces of cloth. There were 2 strings at the side that could pull the cloth together. After all, they had to do a body search before entering the venue. Yundong could not prepare too much for her father. 2 pieces of cloth were the limit. Then Dajiang stuffed the dried flowers between the cloths and covered his mouth and nose. Indeed, he was much better. The guard not far away had a deep impression of Dajiang's 10 pieces of clothes, so he didn't leave just now. When he saw his actions, the corners of his mouth twitched. What's going on? Did he predict that he would be sitting beside the toilet, so he prepared so well in advance? But that wasn't all. Dajiang took out another small bottle and dripped 2 drops into every corner. In an instant, a fragrance spread in the surroundings. The surrounding examinees were speechless. Brother, thank you. Dajiang was finally ready, but when he thought about how there were still a few more rounds to go, he sighed inwardly. He was hesitating. After the first round, would he not take the next round? There were a total of 5 rounds of the county examination. The first round was the main event. Whether the candidates participated in the subsequent rounds was up to them. However, most of them would continue. Dajiang had planned to finish all 5 rounds from the beginning. He was extremely sad, but after receiving the test paper, he calmed down and began to answer the questions seriously. However, many students who were participating in the county examination for the first time were too nervous. Not long after, someone ran to the toilet with an upset stomach. Dajiang was speechless. This would affect his performance. Fortunately, he was fully armed. Coupled with the fact that the first round was not difficult, he focused on writing quickly. The first test consisted of 2 essays and 1 poem. The subjects and styles of the essays and poem were fixed. The entire volume could not exceed 700 words. It was indeed not difficult for Gu Dajiang. At noon, Gu Dajiang only ate some pastries and continued answering the questions. He should be the first to put down his brush. A guard noticed his situation and couldn't help but take a second look at him. After Gu Dajiang finished writing, he put down his pen and paper and read it carefully twice. Then he waited for the release. He finished answering early and was the first batch to leave. When he walked out, he realized that Yundong had also come out. His expression was very calm and there was no problem with it. On the other hand, Yundong was shocked when he saw Gu Dajiang's conflicted expression. It was not the right time to ask him. After the two of them left the examination hall, Yundong asked cautiously, "Uncle Gu, are you all right? Could it be that he had failed the first round? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 979. Too tragic. Gu Dajiang didn't feel too good. He felt that he had a smell on him. Didn't Yundong feel it when he stood beside him? Yundong saw his strange expression and thought that he really did not do well. He quickly comforted him. The county examination is held once a year. Many people are very nervous the first time they take the examination. But after all, after the first time, it won't happen again. Uncle Gu, let's... Before he could finish speaking, Gu Yundong and the others hurried over. "Father, how are you? Are you all right?" She did not ask about the results. After all, Gu Yundong was very confident in her father. But when she saw Gu Dajiang's expression, why did he look so listless? Before Gu Dajiang could say anything, two candidates walked past him. They covered their noses and pointed at him with smiles. "That's him. The test shed is by the latrine." "It's him. That's too tragic. Look at him. He's so old. I reckon he has taken the examination many times but never passed. This time, he was unlucky enough to be assigned to the toilet. There's definitely no hope this year." "Isn't that so?" Not long after noon, I looked up and realized that he had put down his brush. He must have given up on himself. It's too tragic. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to take it and would vomit. Gu Dajiang was speechless. If you want to discuss others, shouldn't you walk further away? Why did you stand beside me and not lower your voice at all? He glared at the two of them. The two examinees were shocked and quickly pulled each other away. He's angry from embarrassment. Let's go, let's go. Gu Yundong's eyes flashed with disbelief. No, it couldn't be. Although she had made preparations, she did not expect the misfortune to really land on her father. The rest of the Gu family also felt that Gu Dajiang was too pitiful, but they should be comforting him at this time. Why did they want to laugh? Yundong's eyes widened even more. So, Uncle Gu did not look well, because of the bad location of the examination hall? Then how did he do? Gu Yundong was the one who calmed down and suppressed the smile on her lips. She looked up and saw her father's angry expression. After a moment of silence, she sighed and patted his shoulder. "Father, you have to thank me. Let's go home." At this moment, Gu Dajiang only wanted to go back and take a shower. After bidding farewell to Qingyuan and Yundong, he left in a hurry. Gu Yundong and the others looked at each other and immediately followed him into the carriage. Almost everyone in Yongfu village knew that the head of the Gu family, Gu Dajiang, was going to participate in the county examination. All of them were looking forward to it. Some people hoped that he would pass, while others hoped that he would fail. However, no matter what they were thinking, there were many people waiting at the entrance of the village. When they saw the Gu family's carriage, they hurriedly ran forward and asked, "Dajiang, how did you do?" "Dajiang, I heard that this county examination is very difficult. How did you do?" "It doesn't matter if you don't pass. It's held once a year. You can continue to take the exam next year. Anyway, your family can afford it." Gu Yundong frowned slightly. She lifted the curtain and said to the people outside, "Everyone disperse. It's only the first round. How can you know the results so quickly after the exam?" "When will we know the result?" someone asked. After all, it had been a long time since an elementary scholar appeared in Yongfu village. They didn't even know how the county examination would be conducted. "In about half a month." "What? That long?" Gu Yundong ignored everyone else, and the carriage quickly returned to the Gu residence. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 980. Result publicized 2 days later. Gu Dajiang participated in the second exam. The second round was a challenge, the third round was another challenge, and the fourth and fifth rounds were consecutive. After every round, the examinees would rest for 2 days. Therefore, it was not too hard for them to pass these 5 rounds. Ever since the first round, Gu Dajiang had gotten used to that smell. In the next few rounds, Gu Yundong even tried to find dry flowers that could make him feel more comfortable, and asked him to put them under his mask. Gu Dajiang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Actually, it didn't matter anymore. The special training at home had been very useful. He sat beside the latrine, and could calmly write his article. It did not matter. However, after the last exam, Gu Dajiang quickly ran out. After returning home, he immediately took a shower and soaked in the bathtub for an hour. He sighed faintly. Indeed, it is easy to go from frugal to extravagant, but it is difficult to go from extravagant to frugal. In the past, when I was in Gu village, I grabbed cow and pig dung with my bare hands. My body was so dirty that a layer of mud could be scraped off, but I could still lie down and sleep soundly. Now, however, it was indeed very comfortable to take a bath. Furthermore, when he came out, his daughter personally made delicious food and placed it on the table. At that moment, Gu Dajiang felt extremely satisfied. The Gu family didn't even ask about the results. There were still 5 days before the results were publicized. During this period, he just had to eat and drink well. However, the others in Yongfu village were scratching their ears and cheeks. They wished they could come to the Gu family every day to ask. No one knew why they were in such a hurry. Even Dong Xiulan came to the Gu residence twice to ask. Gu Yundong was speechless. Even if he passed the county examination, he would not be an elementary scholar. There was still the prefectural examination. He would only be considered an elementary scholar if he passed it. Time passed quickly, and 5 days were gone in a flash. That morning, everyone in the Gu family woke up early. Although they all felt that there was no problem with passing the county examination, they still could not suppress their nervousness. The entire family got into the carriage and headed for the county city. The villagers of Yongfu village were a step too late. When they arrived, the Gu family had already left. Gu Yundong had reserved a table at a restaurant near the county office 2 days ago. It was still early and the result wouldn't be publicized so quickly. The group entered the restaurant and sat on the second floor by the street. Not long after, Qingyuan and Junkin arrived. The restaurant was soon filled with people. Gu Yundong ordered some food and ate while waiting. Soon, even the streets were filled with people. It was lively below, and everyone was discussing who might be on the rankings. Qingyuan also said, "Only 50 people will pass this county examination. There are still many talented students in the county city. Sure, Shao, Yu Hongkai, and the others from Dongyi Academy are very likely to be on the list. However, the 2 of you have solid knowledge, so I'm not worried. I just don't know what ranking you are." Gu Dajiang usually studied in the prefectural city. He didn't know many students in the county city. However, the students in the county city often held poetry and essay conferences. Some people who did well stood out. These people were all popular candidates for this county examination. Soon it was noon. Gu Yundong and the others were about to get up and look at the government office when they heard the sound of wind blowing and beating. The people who were waiting in the restaurant all stood up. "The result has been publicized. The result has been publicized. Quick, go down and take a look." With a series of crackling sounds, many people rushed downstairs. However, the streets below were filled with people. Even if they went down, they would not be able to squeeze through. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 981. Who's the county champion? The Gu family members calmly continued to sit in the restaurant on the second floor. If they went down now, they would not be able to squeeze in at all. It was better to wait for the crowd to disperse before going down. Junkin's family wanted to go down, but seeing that the Gu family was in such a state, and that Qingyuan was still around. They stabilized themselves and continued to eat and drink. Only their table was left on the huge second floor. The streets below were already crowded with people. 2 armed bailiffs opened the way in front, and the 2 bailiffs behind walked to the notice board with the rankings. Everyone looked at them eagerly. The few bailiffs were expressionless and only scolded the crowd that was squeezing around. Move aside and step back. When there was an empty space in front of the notice board, the 2 bailiffs opened the list and pasted it on the wall. After the post was done and the bailiffs left, everyone went forward with a bang. Not long after, someone shouted loudly, I won 30th place, ha 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 ha, 30th place. Someone beside him immediately congratulated him. That person looked at the rankings happily for a while more before being pulled out by the person behind him. Get out after you're done checking. Don't block the people behind you. Yundong and the others stood on the second floor. As they were far away, they could not see the names on the list clearly. They could only look at the various expressions of the people on the streets. Some people were ecstatic and screamed loudly. Some people cried loudly and beat their chests. Yundong even saw an old man with white hair covering his face and crying bitterly. He shouted heart-wrenchingly, I didn't pass. Why didn't I pass? I can even recite the 4 books and 5 classics backwards. Why didn't I pass? God, you're unfair to me. Someone beside him looked at him sympathetically and comforted him. If you don't win this time, there will be a next time. You will definitely win next time. Yes. That person came back to his senses and nodded heavily. Yes, I'll take the exam again next year. I'll go back and read. I'll definitely be able to pass. Yundong was speechless. This man looked about the same age as old Gu. He had not even passed the county examination after so many years. He still wanted to continue? As one got older, their memory and comprehension abilities would deteriorate. He might do even worse next year. Yundong shook her head and looked away, no longer looking at him. There were still many people on the streets. Some people could not squeeze through and simply asked the people in front if their names were on it. Some people knew that they did not pass, so they asked others. Who's the champion? Who's first? Is it Shao or Zhuangzi? I guess it must be Shao. I think it's Zhuangzi. Maybe it's someone else? Some people could not see the rankings and could only discuss outside. However, in the next moment, a shout came from inside. It's not Shao or Zhuangzi. It's Dajiang. The county champion is Dajiang. It's Dajiang. The students behind were suddenly shocked. Dajiang? Who is Dajiang? Why haven't I heard of him? I've never heard of him either. Where did he come from? In short, he's not a student of our Dongyi Academy. Dajiang. Where is Dajiang? Come out, Dajiang. After the people on the street recovered from their shock, they began to look for people. This was really a dark horse. They actually didn't know this county champion. They had never heard of this name. At this moment, the Gu family on the second floor of the restaurant looked at the equally shocked Dajiang in astonishment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 982. Father, your first county champion? It's him? How was this possible? Dajiang was stunned. Yes, he was talented in reading. He had been smart since he was young. He had been greatly praised by his mentor. He had been affirmed by the head of the Tianhai Academy. He had been assured by the young genius top scholar, Qingyuan, that there was definitely no problem. However, he was sitting next to the toilet during the exam. He was the first to put down his brush and paper. He had not received the headmaster's guidance for many years. He had only entered the academy to study for half a year. Even so, he actually got first place, the county champion? The corners of Dajiang's mouth couldn't help but crack. Then he suddenly stood up. This time, he couldn't stay in the restaurant calmly anymore. He immediately ran downstairs. He wanted to take a look personally. He had to confirm it personally. When Junkin saw him coming down the stairs, he could not hold it in any longer and ran down as well. Dafeng was the third, followed by Junkin's parents. Yundong could not help but say to Qingyuan, Help me take care of my mother and younger siblings. Thank you. With that, she rushed down. Qingyuan, who had just left the stool and wanted to get off, was speechless. He silently sat back down, feeling a little angry that he was actually a step too late. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have kept his image, right? He could only turn his head and say to Madame Yang, Yunshu and the others, well, it's crowded below. It's easy for you to get lost. It's the same if we wait here. Yes, master. Gu Yunshu and Bian Yuanji nodded at the same time. Although Madame Yang was still thinking about going down, Lu Hongxiu stopped her. Seeing that the three children had squeezed to the railing and were looking down, she quickly squeezed over. As expected, as soon as she lowered her head, she saw Gu Dajiang and the others rush out of the restaurant and walk towards the rankings one after another. Gu Yundong was fast and had already reached Gu Dajiang, but she couldn't squeeze in at all. There were too many people. She had just squeezed in when she was pushed out again. As soon as she entered, she was pushed out again and further away. Gu Yundong held her forehead and stood on the spot to look around. Suddenly she shouted, "Whose money fell to the ground?" As soon as she said this, many people subconsciously lowered their heads. Gu Yundong was delighted and took the opportunity to enter with Gu Dajiang. Fortunately, they were all strong. Once they squeezed through an opening, it would be much easier to move forward. Finally, after the few of them were covered in sweat, they finally stood 3 meters away from the rankings. Gu Yundong had good eyesight. She looked up and saw that her father's name was indeed in the first row. She immediately shouted happily, "You're really number one. Father, you're really number one, the county champion." Gu Yundong pointed at the rankings. "Did you see it? Gu Dajiang, your name." Gu Dajiang naturally saw it. His fingers trembled slightly. Gu Dafeng, who was beside him, grabbed his arm and pinched it very hard. She shouted excitedly, "Brother, it's you. It's your name. I recognize it. You're really too awesome." When the people beside them heard the commotion, they turned their heads with a whoosh and focused their gazes on them. County champion? So this person was Gu Dajiang? The eyes of the two people beside him constricted as they looked at him in shock. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 983. He's fourth. One of them couldn't help but touch him. "Why, your name is Gu Dajiang." "Yes, it's me." Gu Dajiang finally came back to his senses. His face was filled with joy as his eyes landed on the rankings. That person's eyes widened. "Are you really Gu Dajiang? But you were beside the toilet during the exam. You even finished answering the questions and put down your brush and paper early. How can you be the county champion?" When the others heard this, they were even more shocked. His exam shed was by the latrine? Finishing the questions early? Are you serious? Gu Dajiang also recognized the two of them. Weren't they the people who had stood beside him when he left the examination hall, and said firmly that he couldn't get in? Gu Dajiang couldn't help but puff out his chest. So what if the test shed is beside the toilet? As long as you answer the questions seriously and don't smell anything, you can naturally write like a god. Everyone was speechless. Gu Yundong thought of the 5 or 6 sachets he had brought with him during the second round of the exam. The corners of her mouth twitched. Forget it, since it was a joyous day, she would not expose it. However, the people around him quickly congratulated Gu Dajiang. "Brother Gu, to be able to achieve such results despite such an environment and obtain the county championship, you're indeed admirable. Brother Gu, where are you studying now? I don't think we've seen you before." "That's right, Brother Gu. We often hold poetry gatherings, but I didn't see you participate. If you came, we would have known you long ago." Gu Dajiang had interacted with the students in Tianhai Academy for a long time, and was already used to it. He replied politely, "I usually live in the prefectural city and don't come back often. That's why I don't know you." So he was in the prefectural city. No wonder they felt that he was unfamiliar. However, they were also puzzled. At Gu Dajiang's age, it couldn't be his first time participating in the county examination, right? If he had participated in it before, they would have known him. Someone still wanted to ask, but a panting voice came from behind. Uncle Gu is my name on it." It was Yi Junkin. In the end, he was one step behind Gu Dajiang. When he went downstairs, he couldn't squeeze in. In addition, he was young and thin, and his parents weren't farmers. Now that he had finally arrived, he was sweating profusely and in a sorry state. When Gu Yundong heard his voice, she quickly turned to look at the rankings. The first place was Gu Dajiang, and the second place was an unfamiliar name. Anyway, she didn't know. The third place was Yu Hongkai from Dongyi Academy, who Qingyuan had mentioned had a chance of becoming the county champion. The other person, Shao, was in 6th place. Yi Junkin was in 4th place. Gu Yundong was delighted. She immediately turned his head and said, "You won too. You're 4th. Yi Junkin was stunned and immediately shouted happily, "I got it too. Father, mother, I got it too." His parents were so happy that they cried. Yes, you got it too. Our son is too capable." Many people were attracted by them. It was said that he was 4th. Although he was not as good as the county champion, he was still in the top 10 of the county. It was also an honor. All of them were instantly envious. Moreover, this young man looked to be only 13 or 14 years old. He was so young. His future was probably even more limitless. Many people present knew Yi Junkin. They knew that he was studying in a very small school. However, they did not expect that the school would have such ability to nurture him into 4th place. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 984. Come here. Yi Junkin was Qin Wensheng's student. With Qin Wensheng's guarantee, Gu Yundong knew that he would be fine. However, the 4th place was already very eye-catching. At the same time, her father was in 1st place. He was even more eye-catching and she was proud. If there were no major accidents, the county champion would not need to take the examination all the way to the court examination. He would enter school as usual and obtain the elementary scholar's honor. Her father was almost a confirmed elementary scholar. "Father, let's go out first. Yinshu and the others are still waiting." Okay, let's go back first." Gu Dajiang hurriedly bade farewell to the examinees who were still talking to him. These people knew that such good news should be told to the family early, so they didn't stop him. Hence, a group of people squeezed out of the crowd. Gu Yundong's forehead was covered in sweat. She exhaled heavily, tidied her clothes, and hurried to the restaurant. The people upstairs had been waiting anxiously for a long time. They all looked downstairs. After Gu Yundong and the others came up, Yunshu and Yunka rushed over like cannonballs. "Father, are they telling the truth? You're the county champion, right?" "Yes." Gu Dajiang was overjoyed and rubbed his little head. Yunshu was overjoyed. "Father, you're the best. You have to work harder and win the prefecture examination and the court examination in one go. In the end, you'll be the top scorer in the Royal Palace examination. Father, do you know that you will win 6 consecutive examinations?" Gu Dajiang: "No, I don't know. I don't want to know either. Son, you really think highly of me. You're even talking about winning 6 consecutive examinations. Your father feels that his luck is heaven-defying to have obtained a county champion. Why do you make it sound like I'm already the top scholar?" Gu Yundong coughed lightly and said to Yunshu, "Don't give father so much pressure. He's going to cry later." Yunshu blinked. Alright, he should ask for less from his father. On the other side, Yi Junkin also walked quickly to Qin Wensheng and bowed deeply. "Teacher, I didn't let you down. I'm ranked 4th. Qin Wensheng's eyes lit up. Good job. He had expected Yi Junkin to enter the top 10 in the county. He had originally estimated that the kid would be ranked 7th or 8th. He did not expect him to be more hardworking than he had imagined and get 4th place. However, the person who surprised him the most was Gu Dajiang. He was indeed confident in Gu Dajiang, but Gu Dajiang had actually obtained the county champion. This gave him a huge surprise, especially when he heard that Gu Dajiang's examination shed was near the latrine. Indeed, with Gu Dajiang's experience, his willpower was much better than ordinary young people. "It's getting late. Since we already know our ranking, I think we should leave first. Otherwise, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave later." If everyone knew that the county champion was here, they would probably rush up soon. Gu Yundong also thought of it and hurriedly let her parents go downstairs. If there were too many people later, it would be bad if Madame Yang and the children were squeezed. The group of people took advantage of the fact that it was still crowded below, and quickly got up to leave. However, as soon as they went down, they immediately realized that the entrance was blocked. Sure enough, someone had already walked in and shouted, "Where's the county champion? Where's the county champion?" Gu Yundong hurriedly took 2 steps back. "Father, hide first. I'll ask where the back door is." She felt that these people who came to look for the county champion seemed very excited. Gu Dajiang had just nodded when someone beside him suddenly waved at them. "Come here." Gu Yundong looked over. When she saw the person, her pupils constricted and she suddenly rushed towards him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 985. Coming back to marry you. Why are you back at this time? Gu Yundong could not hide the joy on her face. She rushed to him and hurriedly stopped, maintaining a distance of 1 meter from him. Unfortunately, they were outside now. Otherwise, she would have hugged him. Shao Qingyuan looked travel-worn. His hair was a little messy, and his clothes were slightly wrinkled. There was a hint of fatigue on his face, but when he looked at Gu Yundong, his eyes were very gentle. He lowered his head slightly and said, "I came back to marry you." With that, he quickly looked up and said to Gu Dajiang and the others, "This is the back door. The carriage is waiting behind. Let's go back first." Okay. Although Gu Dajiang was also surprised by his sudden appearance, it was not the time to talk. He kept leading everyone to the back door. Shui Rong was already waiting there with a carriage. Beside him was Qin Wensheng's carriage and Ah Mao, who had returned with Shao Qingyuan. They quickly got into the carriages. Shao Qingyuan held Gu Yundong's hand gently. His large hands were warm. Perhaps he had grabbed the reins when he was riding the horse, and there was a mark on his palm. Gu Yundong glanced at him and quickly got into the carriage. Gu Dajiang was in a good mood today. He found Shao Qingyuan much more pleasing to the eye and couldn't help but ask, "When did you come back?" Shao Qingyuan jumped onto the horse's back. He turned around and saw Gu Yinshu looking at him eagerly. He immediately carried him over and placed him in front of him. As he pulled the reins, he replied, "I just entered the city. On the way, I heard many people say that today is the day of the county rankings. I thought that Uncle Gu would participate in the county test this year, and that you would definitely come to see the rankings, so I came straight here to look for you." When he arrived, he happened to see them enter the restaurant. He also saw the scene of the other students looking for the restaurant. He knew that there was no way to leave from the front door, so he found Shui Rong and asked him to lead the carriage to the back door. Gu Dajiang nodded. Not bad. This man was quite considerate. Did your trip to the capital go well? Shao Qingyuan replied. Everything went smoothly. After a pause, he said, "Congratulations, Uncle Gu, on winning the county championship." Gu Dajiang coughed lightly and couldn't help but smile. However, he was an elder and had to be steady. He couldn't let this brat see that he was very happy, so he nodded and lowered the curtain. Shao Qingyuan was speechless. Was he wrong to congratulate him? Gu Yinshu, who was in front of him, covered his mouth and giggled. He said softly, "My father is shy." Shao Qingyuan couldn't imagine his future father-in-law being shy. The group of people quickly arrived at Qin Wensheng's school. Qin Wenjung wanted to have a good chat with Shao Qingyuan. After all, he had personally facilitated the man's trip to the capital. Although there was news from the capital about the cowpox vaccination method from time to time, it was not as clear as a personal demonstration. However, seeing that Shao Qingyuan only wanted to go back and talk to his future wife, the corners of Qin Wensheng's mouth twitched. In the end, he dispelled this thought and suggested that they meet another day. The Gu family parted ways with Qin Wenjung, Yi Junkin, and the others and headed back to Yongfu village. There were already many people gathered at the entrance of Yongfu village. Even the village chief, Chen Liang, was there. When he saw the carriage driving over from afar, he hurriedly ran forward. "Brother Gu, you're finally back. The rankings have been posted, right? How is it?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 986. Good job. Many people in the village looked over with anxious eyes. Of course, there were also people who were secretly gloating. The Gu family had money, land, and shops. Their lives were already enviable. If Gu Dajiang also became an elementary scholar, wouldn't the Gu family be in heavens? Wouldn't the entire Yongfu village be surnamed Gu? It was said that Gu Dajiang's examination shed was close to the toilet. It would be strange if he could pass. Therefore, when someone asked what rank he got, someone who seemed to be kind but was actually stabbing a knife immediately said, "Dajiang, it doesn't matter if you didn't perform well. There's still another year if you didn't pass this year." I heard that those in their 70s or 80s are still insisting. Don't give up. You're still young and your children are filial. When you enter the examination hall with Yunshu later, it might be a beautiful story. Most of the people could not tell. Some even nodded in agreement. That's right, that's right. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. Shao Qingyuan looked directly at the person who had spoken just now. His sharp gaze was like a wild wolf's. That person only felt a chill on his neck. When he met the gaze, his expression instantly froze. He opened his mouth and muttered softly, "Why do I feel that this wolf cub is even more ferocious than before?" Gu Dajiang had already alighted from the carriage. He didn't know how to answer everyone's questions. It was Yunka who came out later. She said very proudly, "My father is the champion of the county." County champion? Chun Liang, who was standing at the front, was shocked. Did he hear wrongly just now? What did Yunka say? However, there were also people who did not understand what this county champion meant. They immediately frowned and said, "What county champion? You didn't pass, right?" Chun Liang suddenly turned around and shouted. He slapped his thigh hard. He didn't pass? The county champion is the first place in the county examination. He's the first place in our county. Brother Gu, you're good. What? First place? Really? Dajiang, you're amazing. This is a joyous occasion. Io, isn't he about to become an elementary scholar? There's actually a county champion in our village. A big shot has appeared. Brother Gu, you have to treat us. Let's have a good time together, right? Gu Dajiang opened his mouth. He had only passed one county examination. There was no need to do this. Gu Yundong also understood that it was not appropriate to be too high profile now. She immediately said, "There's no hurry for a celebration. When my father becomes an elementary scholar, we will naturally have to celebrate. My father still has to participate in the prefectural examination in April, and really doesn't have time. He will rush to the prefectural city tomorrow or the day after." Chun Liang hurriedly said, Yes. The prefectural examination is more important. We can't let other things affect your studies now." Then he waved at the villagers. All right. Don't stand there. Go back and do your own things." The villagers still wanted to say something. This was the county champion. It was good to shake hands and bask in the joy. However, Chun Liang did not allow it. Everyone could only retreat regretfully and make way for the Gu family. Mao had already gotten off the horse and was stepping on the firm and flat ground. He couldn't help but stamp his feet and whisper to Shao Qingyuan, "Young master, this is the path that Miss has built. It's so comfortable to walk on." Shao Qingyuan nodded, looking proud. The Gu family finally returned home. Gu Dajiang heaved a sigh of relief. However, although the Gu family did not intend to treat the villagers, they still had to celebrate within the family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 987. What did he do? Today, not only did Gu Dajiang get the county champion, but even Shao Qingyuan returned. This was a double blessing. She had to cook personally. Thus, the moment they reached home, Gu Yundong rubbed her palms together and entered the kitchen. Shao Qingyuan wanted to follow, but Gu Dajiang pulled him along and asked him many questions about what happened after he went to the capital. After the two of them chatted for a while, Shao Qingyuan left and walked to the kitchen. Gu Dafeng was also inside. She had a good impression of this junior, Shao Qingyuan. She could also tell that Shao Qingyuan had good taste and ability, especially since he was loyal to her Yundong and did not have a troublesome family by his side. If Yundong married him, it would be equivalent to having another member in the Gu family. Such a son-in-law was too rare. Therefore, when she saw him enter the kitchen, she knew that he must have a lot to say after being separated from Yundong for so long. She immediately smiled and called for the others in the kitchen to walk out together. She even considerately closed the door after leaving. As soon as she left, Shao Qingyuan went forward and pulled her into his arms from behind. Gu Yundong was kneading dough and her hands were still stained with flour. It was not appropriate to touch him. She could only turn her head slightly and look up at his eyebrows. "You've lost weight. Did you not listen to me and eat well?" Shao Qingyuan met her watery eyes and felt as if he was about to be sucked in. He said in a slightly hoarse voice, "Yes, but the food in the capital wasn't delicious." The food in the capital was not delicious? Why did this sound so unbelievable? "I want to eat your egg-fried rice," he added. Gu Yundong was slightly stunned. Then, she remembered that when they first met, she had made him an egg-fried rice and he looked very satisfied. Unexpectedly, he was still thinking about it often. "I'll make it for you in a minute." Shao Qingyuan couldn't help but look at the kitchen door. He lowered his head and kissed her. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and grabbed his clothes with her flour-stained hands. Shao Qingyuan was still unsatisfied when he let go of her, and the desire in his heart became more and more obvious. He looked down at her. "You said last time that we'd get married when I got back." "Yes, after my father passes the prefectural examination." "Okay." Shao Qingyuan didn't ask further. He looked down at the basin in front of her. "Let me help you." After saying that, he went to wash his hands and came back to knead for her. Gu Yundong decided to do something else. There were only the two of them in the kitchen. Eldest Aunt Gu would probably take a long time to come in. Gu Yundong asked him about the capital. "Have you settled everything in the capital? Did you encounter any difficulties?" Shao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes slightly and said calmly, "No, I only made a suggestion. I still have to rely on the imperial physicians from the imperial hospital to implement it. Things are progressing very smoothly, so I can come back at this time." "So the cowpox vaccination method passed?" "Yes, it did. I even met the current emperor." Gu Yundong was stunned and instantly became interested. "You met the emperor? What does he look like? What's his personality like?" The emperor was the highest leader of the country. Just thinking about it made her feel inexplicably excited. Shao Qingyuan laughed. He thought for a moment and said, "His Majesty is a very decisive person." Decisive? Gu Yundong had long seen through this. However, what did he do to give Shao Qingyuan such a direct impression? What did he do? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 988. Is the Emperor crazy? What did he do? Shao Qingyuan still found it unbelievable. He lowered his voice slightly and said, "After the cowpox vaccination method was confirmed that it could prevent smallpox, the Emperor ordered it to be popularized. Unfortunately, no one was willing to try it. Even if the imperial physician said that there was no problem, even if it was an imperial edict from the emperor, even if the imperial physicians said that they had tested it on death row prisoners, and it was absolutely foolproof, no one was willing to try it. After all, it could be fatal. What if they failed? If they failed, they would lose their lives. Moreover, this method was suggested by a country bumpkin. Others heard that this person was not even a doctor. The method he mentioned was unorthodox. Could it be used? Would anyone dare to use it? Not to mention those high-ranking officials and nobles, even the commoners were unwilling. Shao Qingyuan scoffed at this. He didn't propose such a preventive method for the sake of the world. If Yundong hadn't wanted him to make a contribution, and urgently told Qin Wenjing about the method, Shao Qingyuan wouldn't even have mentioned it. He would only silently test it himself and inoculate the people close to him. What did the rest have to do with him? Even if these people died from smallpox, he didn't care. Just as Shao Qingyuan was about to bid farewell to Song Dajiang impatiently and return, The emperor in the palace suddenly made a bold decision that shocked him. The emperor let his 11-year-old son try the cowpox vaccination method. Gu Yundong's eyes widened in shock. He wanted the prince to do it himself? Yes. When this news spread, the entire capital was in an uproar. This prince was born by the empress and was the legitimate heir to the throne. How noble was his status! Moreover, the current emperor only had 3 children, one of whom was a princess. Was the emperor crazy? Everyone felt that the emperor was dissatisfied with the empress and that prince. It was only later that Shao Qingyuan found out that the prince had requested this himself. He did not know about the twists and turns in the palace, but he could more or less guess that this might not only be to tell the world about the effect of the cowpox vaccination method, but also for some other purposes. When Gu Yundong heard this, she fell into deep thought. Perhaps the emperor agreed because he wanted the world to see this prince's courage and contribution to the world. He might be paving the way for him, building his reputation. But no matter what, Gu Yundong could not help but admire the courage of this father and son. But then, a trace of anger surged in her heart. What if this method didn't succeed? Then the first person to be convicted would be her Shao Qingyuan. What if someone wanted to harm that prince and succeeded with the cowpox vaccination method? Wouldn't everyone still have to make Shao Qingyuan take the blame? Sure enough, politics were too dirty. If they were not careful, they might become cannon fodder. What happened next? Shao Qingyuan could tell that there was a hint of dissatisfaction in her tone. He turned to look at her and smiled. I naturally succeeded in the end. The emperor rewarded me, so I came back. Gu Yundong nodded. It's good that you're back. Let's stay away from these things in the future. Next time, let Qin Wenjing go alone. At most, you'll write down the method and let him figure it out himself. Shao Qingyuan. After a moment of silence, he said, Actually, I came back this time with the emperor's decree. I have something to do. Gu Yundong's hand froze. Damn it, it's not over yet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 989. He really knows how to make the best use of everything. Gu Yundong frowned slightly. What decree? The cowpox vaccination method has been confirmed. It can indeed prevent smallpox. Naturally, we have to promote it vigorously, Shao Qingyuan said. It's not only in the capital. It's the same in other places. Our Shuanhe prefecture is naturally no exception. There was the emperor and the imperial physicians in the capital who endorsed it, and the prince had personally tested it. There was no longer any problem. However, the emperor directly handed the Shuanhe prefecture to Shao Qingyuan. He was the most experienced and familiar with the cowpox vaccination method. Therefore, the emperor issued an imperial edict and asked Prefecture Magistrate Dai of Shuanhe Prefecture to cooperate with Shao Qingyuan to inoculate the commoners of the county towns and villages that were subordinate to the Shuanhe Prefecture. Not only that, but in order to spread the cowpox vaccination method throughout the country, the emperor gave the various prefectural cities great pressure and asked the government office to register and count the people who had been vaccinated. Half a year later, if the number of people registered in the prefectural city was minimal, they would have to report it and leave a record. At that time, the local government's evaluation of incompetence would very likely affect their future promotion. Of course, if the number of people registered exceeded 1/3, they would be rewarded by the imperial court. Gu Yundong almost fainted when she heard that. The emperor was really good at finding trouble for them. His decision. Wasn't he worried that some prefecture magistrates will go to extremes and force those unwilling citizens to be vaccinated for the reward? Wasn't he worried that they will focus on this and not care about anything else? Shao Qingyuan had already kneaded the flour and covered the basin with a cloth. That's why the emperor will send a team of imperial guards to the various government offices to assist. Although it was said to be assisting, it was actually to supervise. Not only the imperial guards, but there will also be an imperial physician who is familiar with the cowpox vaccination method coming to the various prefectural cities. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Then she seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly asked, Then which imperial physician is coming to the Shuanhe prefecture? Is Dajiang here? Me. Gu Yundong. What do you mean? When did you become an imperial physician? Shao Qingyuan explained. I'm not an imperial physician, but am more familiar with the cowpox vaccination method than an imperial physician is. The emperor said that there aren't many imperial physicians in the imperial hospital. The palace needs them, and so does the capital. Therefore, no other imperial physicians will come from the Xuanha prefecture. They'll cooperate with the prefecture magistrate. Moreover, they won't send the imperial guards because Qingyuan is here. Gu Yundong cursed in her heart. The current emperor really knew how to make the best use of everything. After using Qingyuan, he started to have designs on Shao Qingyuan. Not a good thing. Shao Qingyuan saw that she was furious and did not say the last sentence. In fact, when the emperor made this decision, he also said one sentence. I heard that your fiancée is also an extremely smart girl. Even Minister Qin praised her endlessly, and was tricked by her twice. You are also a rare talent. I believe that there will be no problem if I leave this matter to you. At that time, Shao Qingyuan had the urge to beat Qingyuan up. He must have reported this matter to the emperor. Otherwise, how could the emperor remember his Yundong? However, Yundong was busy, so Shao Qingyuan did not plan to let her worry. Therefore, he would discuss this matter with Qingyuan and carry out the emperor's decree. This matter is a little urgent. Tomorrow or the day after, I have to go to the prefectural city. When are you going? I'll pack up tomorrow and go to the prefectural city the day after tomorrow. Alright, let's go together. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 990. Gu Dajiang's obsession. After the two of them finished the discussion, footsteps sounded outside the kitchen. Soon Gu Dafeng pushed open the door. When she entered and saw the two of them working, she immediately smiled. Qingyuan, Yundong's father is calling for you. Hurry up and go. We're here. Shao Qingyuan washed his hands. All right, thank you, eldest aunt. I'll go talk to Uncle Gu first. Go. Gu Dafeng waved her hand. After they left, she looked meaningfully at Gu Yundong. The latter silently turned her back to her. Eldest aunt, we didn't do anything. You have to trust us. What are you shy about? Gu Dafeng leaned behind her and said with a smile. It's been so long since you last met. It's fine for you to talk. Eldest aunt has been there before, and the two of you are engaged. It's fine. No one gossips at home. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Eldest aunt, be more reserved. She sped up her actions and went to the cupboard to get the eggs. At the same time, she avoided eldest aunt Gus' mysterious smile. That night, the Gu family was very excited. Gu Dajiang had won the county case. This was something he had never thought of before. To him, it was like fulfilling a dream. Many years ago, before he went to the county exam, he was directly forbidden by his parents and the patriarch from going out. All his efforts were for naught. No one knew that taking the imperial examination had actually become an obsession that he had buried in the bottom of his heart. Now that his wish had been fulfilled and his results were so gratifying, he was happy. Really, he was especially happy. Coupled with the fact that his life was getting better and better with his family by his side, his mood was very complicated. He could not help but drink a few more glasses of wine. In the end, he actually felt a little drunk. Gu Yundong was still worried when she helped him back to his room. She stretched out a hand and asked him, Father, how many is this? Do you really think I'm drunk? It's just a few glasses of wine. Why are you worrying for nothing? How many is this? Gu Yundong insisted. Gu Dajiang sighed. 3, I can see clearly. I'm not seeing things. All right, you've been busy for the entire day. Hurry up and rest. Your mother will take care of me from here. Only then did Gu Yundong relax slightly. Mother, if father is not feeling well, you have to go out and call us, understand? Yes, I know. Madame Yang nodded obediently. Gu Yundong then turned around and left the room. As soon as the door closed, Gu Dajiang collapsed on the bed. Madame Yang helped him take off his coat. Unexpectedly, just as she reached out, he wrapped his arms around her waist and pressed her down. Lunyang, I am happy today. Teacher and old tribe leader can finally be at ease. I did not let them down. I have the face to meet them in the future. This is great, this is great. Madame Yang blinked and slowly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Then she kissed his eyes. Dajiang is the best in the world. Dajiang smiled even more happily. He held her face and said gently, Lunyang too. Yundong hid outside and listened attentively for a moment. After being fed a mouthful of dog food, she rubbed her arms and quickly left. However, the corners of her lips curled up slightly. Their lives would definitely get better and better in the future. The next day, as expected, Dajiang woke up late. When he went out, his head still hurt. It was only when the kitchen brought him some hangover soup that he felt slightly better. Dong Xiulan came at this time, but her expression didn't seem right. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 991. Don't worry, I didn't agree. Yundong found it strange and was about to ask. However, Dong Xiulan quickly put on a smile and handed over the basket in her hand. Your father won the county championship. Your family was busy yesterday, so I couldn't disturb you. Take this. It's a congratulatory gift. Not only were there vegetables, fruits, and eggs in the basket, but there was also a red packet. Although it's not much, this is a token of my appreciation. You must accept it. 300 copper coins was indeed not much for Yundong. However, to Dong Xiulan, it was already a very thick red packet. Yundong accepted it and let her in. Dong Xiulan happened to have something to ask Dajiang, so she followed her into the central room. Brother Gu, is the county examination difficult? Yundong poured her a cup of tea and sat opposite her. She could not help but look at her in surprise. Aunt, why are you asking this? Here it goes. I'm thinking if I should let my eldest son take the exam too. Although we don't plan to let him become an elementary scholar or high scholar, it's good for him to be a preparation scholar. If he becomes the preparation scholar, he can also be a private school teacher who enlightens children. I can be at ease. In the beginning, the Zhang family had really never thought of taking the imperial examination. They just felt that it would be easy to find work later if he could read. Didn't they see that all the employees in Yundong's shop had to read and record accounts? However, when they saw that Dajiang had won the county championship, the entire village was in a heated discussion. They felt very excited and proud. Dong Xiulan couldn't help but be tempted. Dajiang was very supportive of such things. If Zhuangzi has such thoughts, I can tell him about the county examination. As for whether it's easy or not, he'll have to try it to know. I can only say that there are hundreds of students participating in the county examination, but only 50 are on the rankings in the end. Madame Dong really didn't know about this. She was a little surprised. 50 out of a few hundred? Didn't this mean that if he wanted to be on the rankings, he had to be in the top 50 of the county? This was too difficult. She hesitated again. Yundong said, Zhuangzi is still young. He can still study for a few more years. Aunt, you don't have to be in such a hurry. Dong Xiulan nodded. That's true. I have to go back and ask him. With that, she stood up and was about to leave. Yundong sent her out. Dong Xiulan asked her to stop and walk towards her house. Unexpectedly, just as she was about to enter her courtyard, someone suddenly came out from the side and pulled her over. Dong Xiulan exclaimed, "Ah, what are you doing?" Yundong was about to turn around when she heard the voice. She immediately looked up, but she only saw Dong Xiulan being pulled to the corner. As for the person who pulled her, Dong Xiulan blocked them, and she could not see clearly. Yundong was shocked and quickly scolded. "What are you doing? Let go of her." As she spoke, Yundong strode towards the Dong family. However, when she turned the corner, she only saw Dong Xiulan standing there alone. The person who had pulled her away had already left. "Aunt, are you all right?" Yundong quickly looked down at her. Dong Xiulan waved her hand. It's okay. I'm fine." Yundong frowned. "Who was that person just now? Do you know them? Are they from our village or an outsider? Did they want to harm you?" Dong Xiulan quickly shook her head. No. She's from our village and asked me for help. But don't worry, I didn't agree. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 992. Thick-skinned Gu Yundong was stunned. She had always been sharp. From what Dong Xiulan said, the person who asked her for help seemed to have something to do with her. Otherwise, why would Dong Xiulan reassure her? Dong Xiulan did not realize what she had exposed. She pulled Gu Yundong out. Alright, it's fine. Go back. Didn't you say that you're going to the prefectural city? Hurry up and prepare the things. Oh, go take a look at Qingyuan. Brother Shao has gone to the county town. Gu Yundong pulled her back. Auntie, why did that person ask you for help? It has something to do with me, right? Do they want to enter the workshop or be a shop assistant, or grow fruit trees in an orchard? Dong Xiulan was stunned. How did Yundong know that the person's request had something to do with her? She didn't want to answer. No. It has nothing to do with you. If Auntie doesn't tell me, I'll take it that the people from the other villages have ulterior motives, and I'll go to look for the village chief. Gu Yundong was about to leave when Dong Xiulan hurriedly grabbed her. She couldn't dissuade her, so she sighed and said irritably, "It's someone from our village. That person just now was the wife of the second son of the Li family." The second son of the Li family? Who was that? Seeing that she had not thought of him, Dong Xiulan quickly reminded her. It's the family that adopted Qingyuan, the second son of the Li family. Gu Yundong did not like the Li family at all. Hearing this, she frowned. Haven't we never interacted? Why are they looking for you? The second son of the Li family is about to get married. He's marrying He's niece Xiao. I don't know what they're thinking. They want me to make peace in front of Qingyuan and let him attend the wedding banquet. They even said that what Eldest Li and his wife did was unforgivable, but they didn't harm Qingyuan. No matter what, Qingyuan has called them second uncle and second aunt for so many years. They're all relatives and should get along. Gu Yundong. Relatives? In the past, when Shao Qingyuan lived alone in the straw hut, why didn't second uncle and second aunt say that they were relatives? Moreover, the last time she went to Old Master Li's house to cause a scene, she seemed to have exposed Old Master Li's true colors, right? Shao Qingyuan had a grudge against Old Master Li. As his son, how could he have the cheek to say that they were relatives? Indeed, the charm of money was irresistible. If Shao Qingyuan was still a poor kid without money, they wouldn't have to go through this. However, this was not the end. Dong Xiulan continued. There's also the He family. They heard that Zhuangzi's family went to the prefectural city and insisted that I come to look for you. They said that they wanted you to send a message to Sher Dashan and his wife so that they could come back for the wedding banquet. They said that there was some unhappiness last time. They wanted to take this opportunity to reconcile. The He family really didn't know that Zhuangzi's family had gone to the prefectural city. They thought that Sher Dashan and his wife were at least staying at home. Unexpectedly, when they came over, the house was locked. Gu Yundong was speechless. So severing ties was a joke? These two families really knew how to find soft persimmons to bully. They knew that Dong Xiulan had a good relationship with them and was soft and easy to talk to, so they asked her to persuade them. No wonder Auntie's expression was not good when she entered just now. Auntie, you don't have to worry about it. In any case, we're going to the prefectural city tomorrow. They won't be able to find us. Dong Xiulan nodded. I know. I didn't plan to agree to them either. They're just too annoying. She would go to the workshop in a while. The second son of the Li family's wife did not dare to look for her in the workshop anyway. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 993. Awkward situation. Gu Yundong did not care about the marriage between the Li family and the He family, let alone their unreasonable request. The next day, the Gu family and the Shao family drove the carriage away from Yongfu village. They left early and set off before dawn. However, not long after they left, second brother Li and his wife slowly arrived at the foot of the mountain. They first poked their heads in front of the Shao family's door for a while. In the end, they were a little afraid and did not dare to enter. After some thought, they ran to the Gu family's door. The Gu family's main door was open, and the concierge, Father Tong, was also there. Li Dunzi took a few steps forward, But when he saw Father Tong looking over, he quickly retreated. His wife, Madame Du, suddenly patted him. "What are you doing? Hurry up and say something." Father Tong frowned. Of course he knew these two people. They were from the second branch of the Li family. Didn't they have a grudge against the young master? They were probably here to cause trouble, right? At the thought of this, Father Tong immediately walked towards them. "What do you want?" The two of them were shocked. They turned around and ran off. Father Tong was speechless. As expected, they were up to no good. It looked like they had a guilty conscience. The old master and young lady had just left, and only the two young masters had gone to the county to study. He had to talk to the two young masters later, and ask them to pay attention to these two people. With that thought in mind, Father Tong quickly entered the house. As for Li Dunzi and his wife, after running a few steps, they suddenly realized that they were here to look for the Gu family. Why were they scared away by an old man? Madame Du slapped him hard again. "You only have the guts of a rat. Useless, useless. All right, stop hitting me. If you have the guts, go forward." Madame Du did not dare. Be it Shao Qingyuan or Gu Yundong, they were not to be trifled with. However, there was nothing they could do. They really could not live like this anymore. Although they had drawn a clear line with the eldest branch, after the things that the old man had done were exposed, their branch was also criticized. Seeing that the villagers' lives were getting better and better, but they were getting worse and worse, the envy in their hearts could kill them. However, if that was all, it would be fine. The problem was that the Li family was ostracized. Many families in Yongfu village worked for the Gu family. Even if they did not work for them, they hoped that they would be chosen to enter the workshop and shop one day. Therefore, they kept a respectful distance from the Li family, who did not get along with the Gu family. Of course, there were also some people who could not stand the Gu family and badmouthed them behind their backs. These people were willing to interact with the Li family, but Li Dunzi was unwilling to mix with them. They had personally seen Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan teach their eldest brother and sister-in-law a lesson, so they did not have the courage to go against the Gu family. Besides, didn't they see that the village chief was also on the Gu family's side? The Gu family also knew the big shots in the county city and the prefectural city. Wouldn't it be easy to deal with people like them? Just like that, the second and third branches of the Li family became awkward. Not only were their lives poor, but even their son's marriage had become a huge problem. It was not easy to settle down with He Xiao. He Xiao was He Ye's niece. He Ye's family and the Gu family were so close. Perhaps they could ease their relationship on account of He Yi? Unexpectedly, the entire Shi family had gone to the prefectural city. Therefore, they could only look for Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong themselves, hoping that they would come to support their son on his wedding day. This way, everyone would know that their family actually had a good relationship with the Shao and Gu families, and would not have a difficult time. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 994. We have something for Shao Qingyuan Li Dunzi and his wife's side. After looking at each other, they turned around and wanted to walk back to the Gu residence. Dong Xiulan had just left the house when she saw them. She quickly went forward and said, "Why are you here again? Are you still not giving up?" Madame Du was a little angry when she saw her. If she hadn't refused to help, the couple wouldn't have come here. "Don't worry about it. Since you're unwilling to help, we'll do it ourselves. We're not trying to harm Qingyuan and the others. Is it wrong to invite them to the wedding?" Dong Xiulan frowned. "You guys should leave. Qingyuan and Yundong have already left Yongfu village and returned to the prefectural city." "What? He left?" Li Dunzi couldn't help but exclaim. Madame Du grabbed Dong Xiulan's hand and asked anxiously, "Why did he leave? When did he leave? Why didn't we see him?" "They left early this morning. It must have been more than 2 hours." Li Dunzi and Madame Du looked at each other and couldn't help but slap their thighs. There was a main road from the Gu family to the outside of the village. There was no need to pass through the village at all. So no one saw when they left. They were too late. Dong Xiulan saw their vexed expressions and thought that they should have given up since they couldn't find her. Hence, she withdrew her arm from Madame Du's hand and walked towards the workshop. She still had work to do, so she had no time to care about their entanglement. Unexpectedly, after taking a few steps, Madame Du stopped her again. Zhenghe's wife, wait. What else do you want? Dong Xiulan was impatient. Madame Du glanced at Li Dunzi. After a moment, she gritted her teeth and said, You help us pass a message to them and invite them to the wedding banquet. Dong Xiulan suspected that there was something wrong with her ears, and her face was filled with disbelief. In the past, the second branch of the Li family did not seem so unreliable. She had already said that they returned to the prefectural city, but they still wanted them to work themselves to death to rush back? On what basis? What were they thinking? Dream on. I say, Li Dunzi, although you didn't harm Qingyuan when he was young, you must have made a lot of sarcastic remarks. It's fine if he didn't argue with you, but you're still rushing to find trouble with him now, right? What makes you think he will listen to you? Do you think they have to come just because you asked him to attend the wedding banquet? Your brains must have been kicked by a donkey. With that, Dong Xiulan walked around Madame Du and was about to leave. Unexpectedly, when they passed by Madame Du, she suddenly said, We have something for him. Dong Xiulan was stunned and stopped in her tracks. What do you mean? Madame Du glanced at Li Dunzi and said, Back then, when the old man brought him back, he actually had something on him. Later on, when the old man wasn't paying attention, I took a handkerchief. We thought that the handkerchief might have been left behind by Qingyuan's biological parents, and was related to his background. Dong Xiaolin's eyes widened and her breathing quickened. Are you serious? What about the handkerchief? It was about Qingyuan's background. She definitely had to get it back. It might be an important clue. At that time, Qingyuan would be able to find his parents. Dong Xiulan was excited. Qingyuan had suffered for so many years and had no parents. If he could find them now, wouldn't that be a great thing? She suddenly looked at Li Dunzi and his wife. Give me that handkerchief. Oh, give it to Qingyuan. Madame Du said. Of course I hid the handkerchief well. I can't give it to you. Dong Xiulan was a little angry. This couple was not good people. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 995. Letter. They had hidden such an important handkerchief for so many years and refused to take it out. If he had given it to Qingyuan earlier, he might have been able to find his parents earlier. Madame Du was a little shocked by her resentful gaze, and could not help but take a step back. Li Dunzi braced himself and said, We won't give it to you, but we will give it to Qingyuan. As long as you bring them a letter and let them come back for the wedding banquet, we will definitely hand the handkerchief to him personally. Dong Xiulan pursed her lips unhappily. That belongs to Qingyuan to begin with. Instead of returning it to him, you even took the opportunity to threaten him. How can this be called a threat? Madame Du was dissatisfied, but she lowered her voice and said, Even if we pick up things on the streets and return them to the owner, can't we ask them to express their gratitude? We're not asking him to give us money or anything. We even invited him to the wedding banquet. Dong Xiulan sneered. Did you pick it up? You took it directly from him. But if we hadn't taken it, that handkerchief might have been burned by my father long ago and nothing would have been left. Back then, when old Master Li brought the child back, he threw away and burnt everything on him. Not a single strand of hair was left. If not for her sharp eyes, she wouldn't have seen the handkerchief when she was wiping the baby's body. Thinking that her son had just been born and the material of this handkerchief was good, it was very suitable for children to use, so she quietly put it away. Otherwise, the handkerchief would have turned to ashes long ago. Shao Qingyuan would never know his true identity. Dong Xiulan was so angry that she couldn't speak, but what the woman said made sense. Moreover, this matter concerned Qingyuan after all, so she took a deep breath and said, All right, I'll help deliver the message. But whether they decide to come back or not is their own business. Hey, thank you, sister. Madame Du immediately smiled and became happy. Dong Xiulan felt very upset and turned around to go home. She did not dare to delay. She quickly got her son to bring out a brush and paper and wrote a letter to Qingyuan. After he finished writing, she instructed Zhuangzi to keep it a secret and not tell anyone. Then, she took the letter and headed to the Gu family's workshop. There was no one in the Shao family. Mao and the others had left with Shao Qingyuan. There were only Father Tong and a few women left in the Gu family. The only people Dong Xiulan could trust to help with this matter were Tong Ping and Tong, and unexpectedly, when she arrived at the workshop, the two of them were not around. Dong Xiulan felt that it was a pity. If they were here, they might have been able to catch up to Yundong and the others on horses. She could only go home for the time being and put the letter away. Zhuangzi saw that she was a little anxious and quickly comforted her. "Mother, there's no hurry. No matter what, Li Dunzi and his wife will only give the handkerchief to Brother Shao on the big day a month later. Whether we send the letter a day later or a day earlier, they will have to wait a month before returning." "You have a point." Dong Xiulan nodded and settled down. She settled down and went to the workshop to work. As she worked, she waited for Tong Ping and his brother to return. Unexpectedly, she waited until night. When Tong Ping heard that she had a letter for Shao Qingyuan, he quickly promised to deliver it tomorrow. The Gu family would make a trip to the prefectural city to deliver the goods every few days. It just so happened that tomorrow was the day Tong Ping and the others would deliver the goods. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 996. Difficult. The next night, Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong received Dong Xiulan's letter. The two of them were a little surprised. They could not care less about the fatigue of the day and hurriedly opened the letter. After reading it, the two of them were stunned. "The second son of the Li family actually has your things?" Gu Yundong's face was filled with disbelief. Shao Qingyuan frowned slightly and shook his head. "When old Li carried me home, he exchanged clothes with the third young master of the Tao family. That handkerchief might belong to the third young master of the Tao family. But it's also possible that it's yours." Gu Yundong was unwilling to let go of the only clue. After reading the letter just now, eldest brother Shao's eyes clearly lit up. This meant that he was actually looking forward to finding his biological parents. Since that was the case, what did it matter if he searched? Perhaps Brother Shao's family was still looking for him after so many years? No matter what, it's just a guess now. Since the second son of the Li family wants us to attend the wedding banquet, we'll go there in a month. We'll know the results after we get that handkerchief and investigate. Shao Qingyuan nodded. "Okay. Say, if the second son of the Li family has your things, does that mean that the first son has something too?" "I don't think so. Even if there was, I'm afraid they sold it," Shao Qingyuan said. "After old Li died, I searched first brother Li's house in order to find out his background, but I didn't find anything. Moreover, Auntie Dong's letter also said that old man Li had burned all the clothes and items he was wearing back then, leaving nothing behind. It was an accident that second brother Li could obtain that handkerchief. Moreover, first brother Li was a person who was afraid of death. If he really had something of Shao Qingyuan's, he would definitely use it as a bargaining chip when Shao Qingyuan went to beat him up." Gu Yundong felt a little regretful. It seemed that they could only wait until they saw second brother Li in a month. "There's no hurry." Shao Qingyuan placed the letter on the candle and lit it. After watching it gradually burn to ashes, he said, "On the other hand, the cowpox vaccination can't wait. Tomorrow, we'll go to the Dai residence first and convey the emperor's decree to Lord Dai." Speaking of this, Gu Yundong felt a headache. The emperor was too good at giving people trouble. This is not easy to do. After all, no one has ever tried the cowpox vaccination. Everyone is afraid of death, and I'm afraid no one is willing to be the first test subject. Even if the emperor spoke the truth and the prince personally verified it, the distance is still too far. For most people, it's less convincing if they don't see it with their own eyes. Some people could get smallpox, but some people wouldn't. Even if they did, they might be able to survive. Everyone would think that they were the lucky ones. The cowpox vaccination method was just a prevention method, and it was a method that they had never seen before. Who was willing to take the risk? What if it failed and they died? The problem was that the emperor had also issued a decree that they could not use too rough a method. There were only 4 words on Gu Yundong's mind: subdue people with virtue? As expected, They went to the Dai residence the next day. After Gu Yundong went to look for Madame Dai, Shao Qingyuan met the prefecture magistrate. After hearing the decree brought by Shao Qingyuan, the prefecture magistrate frowned fiercely. The first sentence was, "This matter is not easy to handle." He sighed and walked around twice. Finally, he stood in front of Shao Qingyuan and asked him, "Do you have an idea?" "There is one. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 997. It's good if you can't get it. There was one? The prefecture magistrate instantly perked up and looked at him with burning eyes. Shao Qingyuan said, "At the end of the day, this matter is beneficial to the country and the people. However, the people don't believe us in their hearts. If we take the initiative to say that we want to help others with vaccination, I'm afraid they will still suspect that nothing good will happen. In that case, we might as well do the opposite and make people want it but can't get it. The people will take the initiative to ask for the inoculation. How do we take the initiative?" Prefecture Magistrate Dai was interested. What he said made sense. Shao Qingyuan whispered, "Tell them a story." "Huh? A story?" Prefecture Magistrate Dai was a little disappointed for a moment. He thought that he had an awesome extra idea, but it was just telling a story? But he asked anyway. "What story?" Shao Qingyuan told the story in a low voice. Prefecture Magistrate Dai nodded as he listened. A moment later, his eyes lit up. After hearing this, he suddenly clapped his hands. Good. It's indeed a good way to lure people in. Let's do that. How about this? Write down the content first. Later, I'll get someone to find a storyteller to tell the story at the largest tea house in the prefectural city. Shao Qingyuan nodded, walked behind the desk and picked up a pen. However, just as he finished the first line, he was despised by the prefecture magistrate. Hey, your writing is too plain. We have to be passionate, exciting and high. Go to the side. I'll write. I'll do it. Shao Qingyuan stood up and looked at the first line of words he had written. The cowpox vaccination method is a new method to prevent smallpox. It has already begun to become popular in the capital. Yes, it was indeed a little plain. He then looked at the first sentence written by the prefecture magistrate. As we know, our Dajiang is becoming more and more prosperous. The lives of the people are thriving day by day and have greatly improved. This is all because our emperor is a wise and mighty emperor who cares about the world. Ever since the emperor ascended the throne, he has worked hard for everyone to live a good life. Let's talk about the cowpox vaccination method. Shao Qingyuan frowned slightly. Although it likely consisted of flattery, it was much better than what he had written. Forget it. Let's follow what the prefecture magistrate wrote first. The more prefecture magistrate Dai wrote, the more excited he became. The more he wrote, the more comfortable he became. In the end, he wrote 7 to 8 pages before stopping. He handed the papers to Shao Qingyuan. Take a look. How's my writing? Shao Qingyuan took it. To be honest, it was a little profound. However, it was definitely much better than his work. In any case, he could not write it. At the very least, the prefecture magistrate had written down the gist he wanted to express clearly. When he got back, he would let the storyteller speak more emotionally. It would definitely be very effective. Shao Qingyuan nodded. Lord Dai is so literary. Haha, your story is good. Lord Dai is good at writing. That's not worth mentioning. Thankfully, you came up with such a good idea. Dai Wenhua, who had just reached the door of the study, happened to hear the two of them praising each other. The corners of his mouth could not help but twitch. He knocked on the door until someone came in. Then he pushed the door open and entered. He looked at the two of them and said, "It's getting late. Mother asked me to look for you to eat in the reception hall." The prefecture magistrate suddenly realized that it was already past noon after writing for so long. Yes. Let's eat first and discuss the rest later. As he spoke, the prefecture magistrate took the lead and walked out. After taking a few steps, he returned and brought the papers with him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible.